share. We are now live.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I understand that state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We're using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. Clerk, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance, will you please indicate that you are present when your name is called? Also, please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on screen when you speak.
Councilmember Sanchez. Councilmember Squilla. Councilmember Dom. Councilmember Green. Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. And Chair O.
I'm present. I hope my colleagues will join us shortly, but we are going to begin because we have a lengthy hearing, a very full hearing, and we have a time limit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to the best of my ability, manage the time. I apologize to everyone. I know this is an important topic for everybody, a very important topic for our city. But the point of our hearing is to get everyone's information on the record. We have your written testimony, if you've provided it, any details or additions as you provided. And so with that, I'm going to begin. This is a public meeting of the Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative Innovative Economy pertaining to resolution number 200339. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please read the title of the resolution.
Resolution number 200339, authorizing the Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative Innovative Economy to hold public hearings on plans, procedures, and global best practices for restarting the economy in the wake of the novel coronavirus pandemic.
Thank you. Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have for today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. We will begin this hearing, but first, let me note that, we are starting on time, which is a little unusual for council. But as our council members join, I will just ask them to let me know that they have joined. If there are any council members on that would like to make a brief opening statement, please let me know now. There being none, as far as I can tell, let me just check the chat feature. I'm going to start the hearing with an opening statement of my own. I want to put this in context. Philadelphia is a city of eds and meds and arts and culture. Because of COVID-19, arts and culture is not only harmed, but being threatened in a very serious manner. At the same time, globally, other cities and other nations have taken the opportunity to compete for the best position in arts and cultures and other areas in the economy. It's imperative, in my opinion, that we don't lose what we have. We cannot rebuild the creative arts economy in Philadelphia. It's taken a long time, a lot of people, and circumstances that have favored us, and it would be a shame to lose it. It would be devastating to lose our arts and culture base. But if we can revitalize it and bring it back, then we can build on it. For those who don't know, in Philadelphia, I'm not talking about greater Philadelphia, the metropolitan region, just in Philadelphia, the impact of arts and culture is $3.4 billion. This is a number you may hear again during this testimony. There are over 37,000 full-time jobs in Philadelphia related to arts and culture. $930 million in household income. Think about that. Jobs, housing, childcare. Think about the problems we deal with, gun violence and crime, and how the existing arts and culture economy and platform provides answers to these problems. Provides healthcare, childcare, provides aspirational fulfillment, opportunity, mentoring, education. Arts and culture provides $157 million in local taxes to us annually. Now, we were looking at a $750 million deficit this year because of COVID-19 and I'd say other reasons. But we're getting a windfall. Washington, D.C. is sending to Philadelphia $1.4 billion. Even after we take care of the deficits, that's $650 million that we did not expect to receive. The question is, will any of that money be used to revitalize and support arts and culture in Philadelphia? Last year, because of COVID and because of the budget, Philadelphia's small arts and culture budget of $4.1 million was proposed to be cut to zero. Council did not pass an amendment I introduced to restore the budget, but it did add $1.5 million, and that's where we are. We have $1.5 million, I think $1 million rather than $3 million in the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, and the other money, I believe, was for some other aspects of arts and culture. But the Arts and Culture and Creative Economy Office was placed within the Managing Director's Office. At a later time, a bill was introduced. Council members Thomas and Gilmore Richardson with Council President Clark. I believe $1.5 million in an illumination grant is now being available. Applications are being taken. And the mayor announced that he would double the Philadelphia Cultural Fund from $1 million to $2 million, but it's still short from where it was pre-pandemic. The arts and culture economy can simply be explained in the sense of a person who travels into Philadelphia. Perhaps they are working at an office or a employer in Philadelphia, or they live in Philadelphia, but they travel by train, subway, bus, trolley, car share, or taxi to meet up with their friends, go to a restaurant and a bar, and then from there go to indoor sports, concerts, live entertainment of some sorts. What are the critical issues for them? What are the critical issues for us here in Philadelphia? Safety. Safety from COVID-19. What are we doing to ensure that the people who want to go to these events are safe from COVID-19, that the persons, whether they be entertainers or visitors, are safe as well? What type of technology do we have? Right now in the budget, I have not seen any money set aside for technology to destroy COVID-19, to scan, to ensure that an area is COVID-free so we can move to full capacity. What is the city's responsibility in that? Is it grants? Is it loans, tax credits? Should the city provide this technology? What are the city regulations? Safety also includes crime and gun violence. People are not coming into the city if they feel endangered. And while the city itself, SEPTA, the police, whomever, has got to deal with violence, the venues and the arts venues themselves may have to provide lighting, cameras, security, parking security, of course, trash, cleanliness are all parts of this. And the question is, what will it take to make sure we don't lose our arts and culture base, our economy, and what will it take to not only revitalize it, to make it competitive on a global basis? So with that, I will note that Council members Ellen Dom and Maria Quinones Sanchez are present, and Council member Quinones Sanchez would like to make a opening comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take a moment and really thank you for putting together what I know is going to be an important conversation that will help inform as we make decisions over the next coming weeks. As Chair of Appropriations and someone who cares and understands and appreciates all of the work that you've done with these panels and bringing these folks together, I agree with you. I wholeheartedly am going to support you. Not only do we have to restore, we all understand the devastation the hospitality industry is in, and it's not going to start without an infusion and support in a very intentional way. So I just want to thank you and thank all the panelists. You know, here we are on a Friday morning, an industry that employs so many Philadelphians, and we should not be debating whether we should put in money. We should really be debating how much more we should be doing, not just a restoration of what was in the past. So I look forward to the conversation. I thank the panelists and I thank you for this and look forward to supporting you through the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. And I will note publicly that the proposed budget was to take the 4.1 million to zero, and it was 1.5 million put back in. She would have liked to have gotten more, but you know, that was her work, and I really appreciate, all of us appreciate what you've done, Council Member. I'm going to ask the clerk to call the first panel.
The first panel is Dr. Christina.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chair, just letting you know I'm here for the record.
Oh, thank you very much. We are joined by Council Member Derek Green. Council Member, would you like to make a brief opening statement?
No, I don't want to delay the conversation because it's very important to help to address this issue.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll call the first panel.
Dr. Christina Cook, Ori Batensky,
Yes.
Joseph Mirabile, and Wolfgang Gruber.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So the first panel, if you are connected, Dr. Cook, would you identify yourself and begin with your testimony?
Yes. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. I am Dr. Christina Ron Cook, and I am glad to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I do not work for any of the companies here. I just wanted to give a testimony to help the city. So Just to let you guys know, and I'm sure everyone on this phone call does know, we've been plagued, as we were discussing, with things that pertain to a virus. I worked at one point in my career for a company called Bristol Myers Squibb, which deals with HIV and Hep C. I worked on the medical science side for that company. Also have worked on the science and medical clinical side for a variety of pharmaceutical, biotech, and government positions. And so I do understand the nature of this virus. I understand, I can tell you from my viewpoint that the virus is airborne, as we know, but it has some similarities to HIV. And when we worked on HIV, we had to put different blockades up, right, to stop the virus. What has to happen in the United States and throughout the world is to provide these blocks for the virus. And right now we have masks, which are effective to some extent. We have vaccines, which are helping to some extent, especially have high efficacy rates with the current COVID-19 strain. However, just like HIV, COVID-19 is mutating and changing. So in order to protect different environments and communities so that we can function effectively as a society, we have to create more than blockades such as vaccines, more than blockades such as masks and washing our hands, because we want to get this down to the fact where people can openly function normally. So to bring in technology which is able to basically dispense ions and H2O2 along with water molecules into the air, which surround not just viruses, but bacteria, fungus, parasites, and heavy metals and pollutions in the air are very important. And I want to explain this. When you have the ability to have a technology which can actually attach to negative and positive ions, rip them apart, and then take them out of the system in an effective way that does not hurt the body systemically, but instead protects the body, this technology, in my opinion, is not only important, it's essential. And because when you walk in a room and you have a mask, you still have bacteria and fungus that are growing sometimes within the mask. And I know we hate to talk about that because we know it's needed, but that can actually impact the lungs negatively. To have a system where you can openly breathe and that gets rid of 90 to 99% of not just the virus, but also bacteria and also the fungus is extremely important. I want to say one last thing. A lot of things that people are not thinking about and talking about are this. It's not just the virus that is attacking our systems. When a virus proliferates, as scientists, we know that then bacteria and fungus and other pollutants and heavy metals grow as well. So to be able to have a device that does not just effectively stop COVID-19, but also the other pollutants that are in the air is essential for us to get back to normal and daily living. And that's why I believe this technology is something that if we can deploy this, not just in Philadelphia, but throughout the world, this will help effectively stop the spread of viruses like COVID-19. And the reason I'm saying that is COVID-19 is not the only virus that is a threat to our communities. So to be able to bring in something that we know attaches around the virus, surrounds it through the negative and positive charges, and then, like I said, rips it apart so it's no longer a threat to our bodies, is something that is extremely essential.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And what I will say to everyone who testifies, for the benefit of those who are listening, and by the way, this is being aired publicly, could you just give us briefly a bit of your background and qualifications so people understand who is talking to them?
Sure. My name is Dr. Christina Rumcook. I have a master's of science and I have multiple doctorate degrees. I have worked for numerous biotech, pharma, government, and international government entities. I have a nanotechnology certification in graduate school from Harvard, also pharmacology and nutrition from Cornell postdoc.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to save questions for you and the other panelists upon the completion of all the panel members testifying. If you could just stand by.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
do we have Ori Batensky available?
Hi, hello.
All right.
Thank you
Would
for
you
having
provide
us.
us your name and who you are, and then provide us with your testimony? Thank you.
Of course. So, my name is Ori Botensky. I'm located right now in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am the CEO of a company called Eagle X Pro. We provide air purification technologies into the market. Quickly about myself, I own a few businesses, mainly in the health and research. We collect data and compile them into medical protocol, utilizing them with different pharmaceutical companies. Eagle X Pro specializes in air purification technology, patented technology. Mainly, if you can hear by my heavy accent, coming from Israel. We work diligently with different manufacturing and patent holders in air purification in Israel. This is something that's been in the European and Asian market for a very long period of time, and it's coming right now into awareness in the US. And I think this is why we're here, is to talk a little bit more about the different solutions in the market on air purification and educate the market a little bit more. Our company did a lot of work worldwide, and in the US in the last year and a half. We did work in schools. We did work in prison system. We have a relationship and work with the DOC. We did work in commercial, in residential applications. We're creating an FAA regulated device for the aviation to be tested. What we do in general is we change the ambient, we change the environment inside the space by connecting technologies into airflow systems. If it's fan or HVAC systems. In general, because we're talking about different viruses, we're talking about different bacterias, molds and spores, airflow is an important tool in combating those different contaminants. And utilizing an HVAC system is a very, very important tool that is being utilized worldwide, other than, of course, all the prevention methods that we're aware of, wearing masks and having a distance between people. We think that it's an important step to utilize technologies like filtration systems, HEPA filters. It's important to understand the differentiation between technologies like HEPA filters, UV light, bipolar ionization, and the differentiation between each one of them. Just like you have a difference between the masks, you have difference between filters, you have difference between lights, you have difference between bipolar and ionization and other technologies, oxygen technologies in the market. We are here to explain those differentiations, to show that there is a huge need in the market, just like Dr. Cook mentioned, to create other layers of protection, other layers of security, because people are not educated and do not understand the differentiation between filtering air to creating a space, an active environment that is clean of bacteria, mold, and different viruses, and can actually reduce and prevent people from getting sick. We appreciate.
Could I ask you, could you just, in a very layman's term, kind of explain how you have placed your ionizers in the state of Delaware's prisons and schools? How practically does that work?
Sure, of course. It's important to state, I understand the need to go into categorizing into ionization. Ion production there's three different levels. Not all types of ions are created equal, and not all types of what you call ionization devices are created equal. Ions in general can be produced positive and negative. Bipolar ionization is when you produce both of them. And the need is to create a very large amount of ions without producing any health risk, without producing any ozone, and transferring them into the space, interacting with the humidity in the air, and by that creating H2O2, hydrogen peroxide. And what we're doing is basically changing the ambient, taking it from a certain level of ions and hydrogen peroxide in the air to a much denser environment of hydrogen peroxide. By doing that, we're capable of reducing the amount of contaminants, VOC, pollutants, particulates, and other by breaking, for example, if you take viruses, by connecting the positive and negative ions around those contaminants, we're able to break the protein structure of a virus. What we're doing is we're going to places like schools, or you mentioned prison systems. If we'll take, for example, Delaware, we went through different walkthroughs in the facilities to better understand the airflow systems and create different customized solutions for each environment there. If it's a gym, if it's a pharmacy, if it's a class in school, if it's a prison cell, and better equip each and every one of those air handlers with different technologies and making sure that they have a full suite of solutions. If it's a filter and if it's a bipolar ionization technology.
All right. Thank you very much. I will ask then if Joseph Mirabli is available and connected.
I am available and connected.
All right, thank you. Would you identify yourself, your background, and give us your testimony?
Yeah, first I would like to thank the council for your time today. Not often we get to log in and really save lives, which is what we're here to do today. My name is Joseph Mirabli. I'm the president and CEO of United Safety and Survivability Company. Maybe more importantly today, I'm also a proud Philadelphian for my entire life. Graduate of University of Pennsylvania as well as Temple University. United Safety and Survivability Company proudly employs over 1,000 people globally, several hundred of them here in our headquarters in Exton, Pennsylvania. We're a leading provider of safety and survivability solutions for public transportation, first responder, fire trucks and ambulance markets, school buses, and our military members, as well as many other markets. In short, we produce a range of safety products, including seating, restraint systems, fire suppression systems, and air and surface quality systems that save lives. We look for the most dangerous situations and we try to solve those problems. As the pandemic progressed, very tragically, we saw illness and death for many of our public transportation hero bus drivers and employees all over the country. The pandemic also impacted our communities greatly by reducing ridership of public transportation due to safety concerns, and left many of our inner city areas with people who did not feel safe getting groceries, going to the hospital, going to work, or getting critical services that they needed. This has led to, in our opinion, a direct loss of equity that public transportation helps to solve, as well as a great economic slowdown all around the country. We were dedicated during the pandemic to take our time, energy, and resources to help. First, our company provided engineering, manufacturing resources to our community in need, including producing masks and shields for our frontline and first line responders all over Philadelphia, our doctors and nurses. And in parallel with this effort, we were able to locate several air and surface technologies, including Eagle X Pro and our active air technology systems, as well as our surface systems that we found could cleanse the air of viruses and bacteria, including neutralizing and removing the risk from SARS-CoV-2, which causes the coronavirus. We did extensive testing over the last year in validation, proving these technologies work. Many of these technologies were widely used for 20 years or more in applications, including military installations and other areas, but had never been needed in our day-to-day life. The pandemic certainly changed that. United Safety offers a range of these solutions produced by our proud workers here from Philadelphia and the surrounding regions that we have been implementing and installing all over the country in public transportation systems, school buses, first responder vehicles, first responder houses, and others. We are provenly able to kill 99.9% of viruses and bacteria in many of these regions and make them extremely safe, much safer than they are today. We are installing these again all over the country, and we are really ready here with a full team to be able to help do what we can do in our region of Philadelphia and the surrounding area to bring us to where a lot of the rest of the country has already progressed. We have a 500,000 square foot facility out here in Exton, Pennsylvania with several hundred employees who live on and around this area and are passionate about how we can help to really move past this pandemic by implementing technology solutions that exist today that can help us solve this problem. I thank you for your time today. I thank you for taking the real interest in these different technologies that can help move us through the pandemic.
Thank you very much. I'll just let everyone know that I visited your really surprised at how affordable, inexpensive, and convenient the bipolar ionizer was, as well as the other technologies that I saw. It was just interesting to me that these solutions are being deployed in certain states, in certain communities, in certain airlines, but not everybody. Not everybody is doing it. And it just is astounding to me that some people will do this and some people won't. It looks like a big discriminator as to who is going to be, on top of the global marketplace. What cities, for example, are going to become viable and which ones are going to go by the wayside. But I appreciate your being here. I'll ask you to stand by because my colleagues may have questions for you. So with that, I'll ask, is Wolfgang Gruber connected and available?
Yes, I am, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Would you state your name, identify your position, and provide us with your testimony?
Okay, my name is Wolfgang Gruber, and I am heading here the company CEMIC-RF. I'm the CEO of the company, and we are based here in Munich in Germany. And my aim is to get you aware of a technology which could be a real game changer to deal with COVID-19 testing. So technically, the technical requirement and equipment for our system would be a server or a cloud based at any location of your desire. And what we would need would be a device like a smartphone, tablet, PC with a camera having a sensitivity of 12 megapixel minimum. So what our app is doing actually, CEMIC iScan takes a frontal image of the eye and spits out the results within 3 minutes. What we do is we take the sclera surrounds the iris, and COVID-19 can also appear on just one or both sides of the sclera. So before taking an eye image, the test individual inhales 3 times deeply. That is needed, or we just recommend that, to get small spray particles transported from the lungs into the tear ducts. So we could see the actual status of the lung situation. So by touching the photo trigger on the CEMIC iScan app, we collect between 80 to 100 single images and superimpose those to get a clear photo of the nature of the eye. The pink color pattern, which is also known under the pink eye syndrome, of the sclera and the conjunctiva, is analyzed as there is a decisive pink color deviation in the human body in case of inflammation or exposures to chemicals or others. Our app encodes the images into YUV grayscale for further processing. We do not examine color frequency spectra, as people ask us a lot. This application is used with active light, but we don't use. What we do use is a pure color coding technology instead. We take over the raw image data and identify them in YUV, and every pixel of the sclera is sent to the cloud, where CEMIC Emily, our AI, undertakes a preliminary evaluation of the raw data. The raw data, accompanied by a logic software, is then sent to the user's device for final processing. And once finished, results are stored on the user device, and the logic software dispenses what we call this process we call sterile computing. Additionally, the collected data can be automatically distributed to stakeholders such as health authorities, CDC, and so forth. Incorporated system geotracing and geofencing functionality offers the possibility to monitor infection pockets and interrupt possible infection chains. Results can be dropped off as a secured code into a smartphone and let everyone in to go to opera, to museums, and so forth. In our study, which took place in March 20 to September 20, together with USC California, we found out the exact pink hue from over 2 million different ones that exactly depicts the coronavirus. Out of these 1.2 million participants in the study, we found 70,000 individuals showing COVID-positive infections, also in combination with other diseases they showed in the tests. Context of COVID-19, typical pink hue in February 21 was confirmed and appeared published by different physicians of the Paris University and France in Lausanne, Switzerland. So they confirmed our approach, which was nice to see, by the way. In addition to the COVID-19 results, we provide further data within 3 minutes. After you shoot the picture, within 3 minutes you get the results. And the next generation CEMIC scan will give you the results in 10 seconds. So we indicate COVID-19 positive, negative. If the person has in addition a conjunctivitis, yes or no. We indicate blood pressure, pulse, and body temperature. Just to give you an example, a PCR test always indicates a positive result, even if the virus is only situated in the nose-mouth area. A dead virus can also be coughed up from the lungs and lead to a positive PCR result, which of course is a false negative in that case. If CEMIC scan shows a negative result, then the virus can no longer be detected in the body. The lungs are accordingly no longer infected, even if the previous infected individual still suffers from fever, headache, and so forth. Also, CEMIC scan apprises that the tested individual is no longer contagious, and PCR give out a false positive result in that case as well. CEMIC scan detects that an individual was infected with the virus before, but no longer is contagious. Some individuals' immune system are that strong to enable them fighting off the virus completely. So our test approach records all effects just as the pink eye disease. So that can occur due to a COVID-19 infection. We also recognize asymptomatic COVID-19 diseases and can detect COVID-19 on an average up to 6 months in the past after initial infection. So if CEMIC scan alerts a positive COVID-19 indication, then stop all actions, immediately send the tested individual to a PCR test for comparison or retain him in quarantine. Our infection acquisition period is as follows. With a high viral content and a low antibody content of a person, it takes only 1 day to get detected. With the same viral proportion of antibodies, it's about 3 days. If the viral content is low and the antibody content is high, then it takes 6 days. So that's a brief description of the functionality of CEMIC scan, and we really believe it's going to be a game changer in this world.
Thank you very much, and I especially appreciate you joining us from all the way over there in Germany. I will ask you, can you stay on for a bit, because you are our last person on this panel. We're now going to open it up for questions. If there are any from our council members, I just would like to explain to our viewing public that what you've heard in this panel is basically technology that is available, affordable, and practical, and proven that one destroys COVID-19 in the air, whether it's a bipolar ionizer or ultraviolet light or things like that. and its effectiveness, and also a device, for example, that was just explained, where you may have a smartphone, get a photograph of your eye, and it will say that you do or don't have COVID-19. You can take that smartphone, for example, and take it to your concert, to your indoor event, to your convention, to your dinner, or it sounds like it could even be emailed out ahead of time, or part of a process of when you go to an event, you RSVP. It might, if you have a photograph of your eye, it might approve your ticket on the basis that you don't have COVID. And for us in the United States, and I'm sure around the world, not everybody wants to get, for whatever reason, a vaccine. And so the issue is whether you do or don't have a vaccine, you would be able to show that you don't have COVID from this. And as you said, all of these things appear to be a game changer. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm first going to recognize that we are joined and have been joined for a while. I just didn't have the time to announce it, by council members Mark Squilla and Isaiah Thomas. So with that and the chat feature, I'll ask, does any of the council members have any questions for any of our four panelists?
Thank you, Councilman O. This is Mark Squilla, and thank you for having this hearing. It's very important to hear these things that really we don't normally hear through our regular channels. So it's fascinating. My question is, what is the cost associated with this, or different types of measures that we could use? And are cities or municipalities paying for these? Are they different agencies paying for these? How do we go about being able to pilot it or use something like this?
So I'm going to open up for the panel, but since I kind of already asked that, council member, I'm going to let them answer, because I'm not an expert in this area. But what I saw was a device about the size of a smartphone, the ionizer. You turn it on. It's good for like 7 or 8 years. You don't need to touch it. You just put it in an air duct. You put it next to a fan, next to a window unit. They kind of look at, the configuration. It produces billions and trillions of positive and negative ions. They're distributed in the air. They surround the protein shell of the virus, and mix with the moisture in the air, become a hydrogen peroxide, destroy the shell, kill the virus. I did use a different scanner. I think it's Dr. Gruber. What he's talking about is something different. What I did was I went in front of a scanner, opened my mouth, my eye, and in 10 to 15 seconds, it gave me a positive, negative. What he's talking about is something where you could do this, like, for example, before you go to an event, or as you plan to go to an event, you could carry it in your cell phone, that you just show that you don't have COVID-19. The cost was very affordable, and in terms of the ionizer, and the city would pay for it for city buildings like prisons and city, entities like our health centers or whatnot.
I'm thinking schools.
Schools.
Yep. Right. That was my.
Yeah.
So, like, the cost of the school would be minimal if we had something like this.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to let them answer that question, because they have been deploying it. What I find very problematic for us is that there's nothing in our budget that is anticipating the purchase and the support of deploying these technologies, so that our city can be COVID free to the extent that we can get back to full capacity. So I'll ask the members of the panel, could you answer the council members' question on how to deploy it, and the costs involved, those type of things?
And real quick, like, besides schools, and I was thinking like maybe performance venues and sporting events, things like that, where, right now you can't have folks, but maybe if you have these things, it's a lot easier to make a decision, say, all right, you have these things, then we know that we're, looking at this in a safer manner. We could then decide to do different things. And that was in my mind when I was hearing you guys speak.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir. I'll give a quick answer as I can do without taking too much of your time. I would say, depending on the units, because you have different air handlers. You have a air handler that deals with a very small space, a small room up to 500, up to huge gymnasiums and different systems. System costs are anywhere between 500 to the smallest unit. In the smallest space up to about 3,500, unless there is any customization that is needed in the solution. And usually then you look at different air handlers and the amount of HVAC systems you have in the building. I would say we've done multiple schools. We've done a lot of schools, so I can't really give you a number to pin it down on. And there's a huge difference between a high school, elementary, and a kindergarten, a special kids school. Each one of them has different HVAC systems, and they have different needs. For example, we did the school in Brennan School in Delaware. It's a special school. We took under consideration about 30% more utilization of the technology because of the inability to actually keep distance or wear a mask and other stuff like that. So it really depends. I would say depending on the amount of HVAC system, 30 to 130, 150,000 in school. We did most of our work through CARES Act with the schools. And we can assist and consult as much as we can. Needs to be more specific, I guess.
All right, so basically it would be a case-by-case study on how the HVAC systems work in those particular buildings. But, you know, there are resources that are given by the federal government to the schools that are going to have these costs and looking at how to make these buildings more safe. And the ventilation systems is one of the things that the school district has been talking about. So, I mean, if there is a way to do that, maybe this is something our district could look into to see how this would work. And if the system itself came in and then the air, because we were saying the flow of the air is positive in itself, but if the flow of the air and also with this technology would also make the people who are in the school feel very safe. And I think it's important, especially since we're going back hopefully in September.
Yeah, and Joseph Mirabli identified that there are federally funded programs to support this for our schools. And after Mr. Botensky is done, I'll ask him to further go into that for you.
What I can share with you regarding our side is our ability to provide the helping hand, provide all the tools for you guys to make the right decisions, meaning providing HVAC, licensed HVAC installers in the state to go through walkthroughs in buildings, in schools, in prison, and then the courthouses, by the way, hotels and other institutes that are needed, and to provide you more data, more information, collect some testing from our side to better understand how the systems are working and what is needed from our side, or in general, what is needed as a building for better air quality. So we don't mind doing that. We did that in multiple states already in the U.S., and we would love to assist here.
It was great to share that information with the chair, I think, and then we could disseminate that through council and our health department.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Mirabli, could you give a little bit on the federally funded programs for the schools?
Sure, thank you. So the CARES Act does have provisions in it for what are called ESSER funds, as well as other funds that are centered around air quality. So these just need to be applied for, and they're still fully funded and grantable if the application is put in, which would cover most of the technologies that we did discuss here today.
Fantastic. I'm going to try to move forward. As I said, we have a lot of witnesses, and I'm going to push this forward. If there are any additional questions, please let me know from the council members. Also, you can always contact me. I am in touch with our witnesses, and I will be happy to put you in touch with them. As I said, I did an on-site visit, so I did physically see, and I asked a lot of questions. This is very, very practical. Okay, with that, I'll ask the clerk to call the next panel.
The next panel is Adam Goodman, Terry Cook, and Joseph Wooten.
All right, is Terry Cook connected and available? Clerk, is Terry Cook connected and available? Do you know?
Terry Cook needs to unmute. There we go.
Oh, there we are. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
I am available, and please.
Yes.
Here.
Thank you. Would you please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony?
Yes. My name is Terry Cook, and I was born and raised in Philadelphia. Left Philadelphia to go to the University of California for a PhD, and then went overseas with the U.S. Foreign Service to our embassies and missions in China, Japan, Germany, and Taiwan. Coming back to Philadelphia, I founded a 501c3 nonprofit that initially was called China Partnership of Greater Philadelphia, when that was its sole program, but has been rebranded as Regen 250. And I wish to say good morning to members of the Philadelphia City Council, as well as to invited participants and observers of this important hearing. We are considering this morning not only the recovery of our city's creative economy following the pandemic, but more importantly, its regeneration. It's about not simply restoring and sustaining what came before, but reimagining and revitalizing the arts and culture community we've all so sorely missed this past year. We need to be creating a new normal by applying lessons learned over the past year about technology innovation and, importantly, social inclusivity. The small nonprofit I founded in 2011, Regen 250, is honored to be represented here today. We are small, but we punch above our weight class. Prior to the pandemic, our focus was in promoting sustainable economic development locally through strengthened ties with our sister city, Tianjin, via the U.S. government's Eco-Partnership Program. During this 10-year effort, we helped the Philadelphia Orchestra develop its China residency program. We took Mayor Nutter to Tianjin and Beijing. We received one of 36 national awards from Secretary Kerry and the U.S. Department of State. And our model of collaboration was featured in several peer-reviewed scientific journals and in a recent 40-page UPenn case study publication. Last spring, just as the U.S. government's 10-year program of low-carbon cooperation with China was winding down, we saw the coronavirus threat raising its head. While the climate change and pandemic challenges have notable similarities, we felt compelled to start focusing our attention on the pandemic challenge because it was immediate and costing lives daily in our local community. We repurposed our collaboration platform to serve neighborhoods in our community disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. These are, as we all know, as a legacy of redlining, economically and environmentally disadvantaged neighborhoods, preponderantly of color. How are we bringing about change? First, by thinking big but starting small. We have put down roots in Greater Philadelphia with growing chapters in the tri-state region, but aim to scale quickly throughout the entire Northeast corridor vector of transmission for SARS-CoV-2 and its variants, reaching from Washington, D.C. to Massachusetts. Second, we're able to think big because we partner for impact. With established partners such as the UN Global Building Network, which is headquartered at Penn State, UPenn's Fox Leadership International, and our commercial supporter, Eagle X Pro. We are focusing our initial effort on keeping today's disadvantaged students safe so they can become tomorrow's community leaders. Whatever one's zip code or school budget, every student deserves to breathe safe air in school. It's that simple. We are partnering with innovative and service-oriented schools in Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Trenton as the local anchors for our effort. In Philadelphia, we are proud to be working with the Community Partnership School on Glenwood Avenue as our initial partner for a philanthropically funded school-wide demo installation of the Eagle X Pro air purification solution. A particularly valued partnership helping us power the launch of Safe School Air in Philadelphia is Joseph Wooten and the Wooten Brothers Band. This band of four brothers, who you will be hearing from after the next speaker. This band of four brothers, including multiple Grammy winners, as well as Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, rarely performs together, but are coming to Philadelphia pro bono on July 6th, reuniting to help celebrate the safe reopening of Philadelphia's vibrant creative arts community and to power the launch of our Safe School Air campaign. Music and the arts always lead the way, and July 6th is all about reuniting around and celebrating a new safe future for our schools and our creative arts community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Cook. You are a nonprofit organization, and you have donated technology to a public charter school here in Philadelphia with the air purification system that you're talking about, which is the Eagle X Pro. And we have a video testimony from Joseph Wooten, one of the Wooten brothers who have 10 Grammy Awards in the family, and Joseph Wooten with 3 Grammy Awards. So I'll ask the council support staff to play the video of Joseph Wooten.
We cannot hear.
Can you hear now?
I cannot hear it. Is there a volume?
No, we cannot hear. I'll ask council support staff to work on that. In the meantime, let's move on to the next witness. That is Adam Goodman.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for your time. Can everybody hear me? I know the screen is still up right now. Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much.
My name is Adam Goodman, president of Goodman Properties. We're a commercial real estate development company based in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. We have approximately 250 properties, which equates to around 500 buildings in our portfolio. That equates to about 6 million square feet of commercial space, and the majority of our portfolio is in the city and in the greater Philadelphia area. About 35% of our portfolio are restaurants, fitness users, movie theaters, schools, so you can imagine what the last 15 months of my life has been like. I'm here this morning just to throw my support behind both Eagle X Pro and United Safety and Survivability Company. I was fortunate enough to be on the team with United Safety and Survivability Company, moving their corporate headquarters and developing a 400,000 square foot facility for them in Exton, Pennsylvania that employs hundreds of people. We did the first phase of that development I think it's about 4 years ago, and the second phase of that development ended right as COVID was beginning. We actually got shut down for a period of time due to the restrictions. I got to witness the transition that they made through COVID, and I think Joe purchased maybe 90 3D printers just to produce face masks and shields. And because of that, I was kind of out in front of these building technologies. I spent months going through what was available, whether it was ionization, mist, UV, etc. And my focus was really what was best for my portfolio and what was best for my buildings. I met Ori and Eagle X Pro about a year ago, and although pessimistic at the beginning, I was kind of in the shoes that you guys are currently in. It's what's the best long-term solution for my buildings. And Ori was very simple in his description. My technology works. And after going through, as Joe mentioned, various testing and seeing just the differentiation in his technology, both on the ionization and also on the other technologies that are out there, it's very clear to me that this is what needs to be in my buildings. I've spent the last 6 months implementing it into my portfolio. I'm very proud to be affiliated with his brand and his company. And just to keep it brief, I hope you guys really understand and listen this morning, because both EXP and USSC are saving lives, and they're saving tenants, and they're saving people's livelihoods by doing this. So again, thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, let me know.
All right. Thank you very much. Please stand by in case the council members have some follow-up questions. While the support staff is working on the video testimony of Joseph Wooten, I'm going to ask if Matthias Taranopolansky is available and connected for his testimony.
Thank you, Councilman O. I am here.
Oh, thank you very much. Please state your name, identify your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Matthias Tarnopolsky. I'm the president and CEO of the Philadelphia Orchestra. I submitted written testimony in advance, but I'm actually going to depart a little bit. So if I may, I want to just thank everyone on the panel for their time today. So thank you, Councilman O, and the Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative Innovative Economy for your work on behalf of the citizens of Philadelphia and for inviting me to speak today. I'd like to acknowledge and thank profoundly my colleagues who are to be on this panel with me, Ellen Trainer of AFM Local 77 and Louis Scaglione of the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra, and many others with whom it is an honor to work in the arts sector in our community. All of us have the passionately held belief that the arts and culture and education institutions, which are so the bedrock of Philadelphia and makes our community extraordinary, will be the ones also that help Philadelphia thrive on the other side of this. And the partnerships that we're hearing potentially described today with technology to enable the gathering of people together sooner rather than later is important in that aim. The collaboration between our organizations has been central to the survival of many arts groups during the global pandemic, and I really thank profoundly the leadership of many of my colleagues in the arts sector, of all of my colleagues in the arts sector in our community. I'm here in my capacity as president and CEO of the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Academy of Music. The orchestra's home from 1900 to 2001 is still a treasured asset of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and we are keen to get people back into the Academy and back into the Kimmel Center. Since March 12, 2020, when the Philadelphia Orchestra and our music director, Yannick Nézet-Séguin, gave a powerful performance in an empty Verizon Hall at the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts. We performed that day. The city that morning had mandated no more than 250 people in a venue. We said to our audiences, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to welcome you tonight, but we broadcast that concert on our website and on with our partners at WHYY and reached millions of people. But for an orchestra to perform in front of no live audience was deeply moving and sad event. And we didn't know then on March 12th, 2020, what was to come. The economic impact on the pandemic on the Philadelphia Orchestra has been about $27 million in lost ticket revenue and touring fees. That impact is profound. Amid all the heartbreak and tragedy, we had to adjust to our new circumstances and embracing a new creativity, serving as a musical refuge and a source of joy for our fans through our digital stage platform. Our programs have now been viewed on all 7 continents, including by the crew at Palmer Station in Antarctica most recently. Indeed, the role as one of the cities and indeed the nation's ambassadors and greatest exports remains undiminished. At the same time, we have maintained our deep commitment to the extraordinary and diverse communities of our home here in Philadelphia, launching in October a program called Our City, Your Orchestra, a series of free online concerts recorded at Black-owned business and iconic cultural locations throughout the city. The priorities that we established with the musicians of the orchestra, with our board leadership and with our staff on March 12, 2020 were to take care of our people, to ensure the integrity of the ensemble and the business, and to make sure that we are here to help Philadelphia thrive on the other side of this. I am pleased to say, I think we're in that last phase now. Just 2 days ago, we announced our return to performances with in-person audiences beginning in the fall, with a new season aptly titled Forward, which is informed by the impact of the pandemic, the tragedy yielding to creativity, the social justice movement in America, and the drive towards creative equity and inclusion in the world of music. We believe that diversity is excellence, and excellence is diversity, and the Philadelphia Orchestra embodies that ideal. For Philadelphia to remain vibrant, we need to invest in the cultural sector and in the artists that showcase the incredible creativity and diversity of all the communities in our city. We thank the city of Philadelphia. The arts community needs your support, and we are here to help in modeling a bold future that reunites us with our audiences, that brings people together through innovative performances and programs that reflect our changed world. Let's remember that the arts and music especially help us express thoughts and ideas that words alone cannot. That's what we and our colleagues in the arts sector in Philadelphia are here to do in collaboration with the city. We see you as a resource. Please see us as a resource also. We are committed to help Philadelphia thrive now on the other side of the pandemic. Thank you very much for your time and your advocacy and your commitment on behalf of the arts and culture and arts organizations across the great city of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, while our tech staff is working on the video, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to start with my own question to you. In terms of funding, our city is getting $1.4 billion we did not expect to get. And even after the deficit of $750 million is taken care of for this year, it leaves us with at least $650 million to invest in the reopening of our city. Our city has never had a arts fund. We've had the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, which distributes grants of $15,000, mostly to nonprofits, very important work, but we've not had a fund to invest in a much larger fund to invest in the creative economy, such as fashion and music, or even for-profit type of ventures that are so important to our base. If we had a fund, would that fund, whatever amount of money is in it, and that's one thing we have to determine, how much money should be in this fund. But if we had a fund, would that be a resource that could help the Philadelphia Orchestra in light of the $27 million that was refunded and lost?
It could be transformative, of course. Everybody at the Philadelphia Orchestra has made enormous sacrifices. The musicians and staff have taken significant cuts. And as I said, we have not been able to put on a live paying in-person concert since actually March 7th, 2020. These are devastating losses for an organization. So we believe firmly that we can help Philadelphia thrive on the other side of this. Any support that the city of Philadelphia can offer the Philadelphia Orchestra, which after all is a blazing ambassador for all that is good in Philadelphia, is one of the bedrock institutions of Philadelphia since 1900. Anything the city could do could have a transformative impact to help sustain this great arts organizations and the artists and staff that bring the joy and transformative power of music to as many people as possible. I would also emphasize, if the city has the opportunity, on the critical importance of arts education in our schools, which after all can have a transformative, we're looking at this from pure economic terms, can have a transformative impact on the communities of Philadelphia also.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll ask my colleagues if anyone has a question for this panel. Please let me know or just ask your question. At this time, I don't see any questions in the chat feature. I don't hear any questions being raised. So I will thank the panelists for your testimony. I'll ask council support if we can play the video testimony of Joseph Wooten.
Thank you, council member.
Thank you very much. We still cannot hear the audio. In the interest of time, and I'll ask council support to interrupt me anytime we're ready to hear the video as well as see it. Let the clerk know. Looks like we're trying to get the audio up.
Mr. Chairperson, it seems that the microphone associated with the video, it shows on my screen as Jeff Spears. That is muted, and I wonder if that might have anything to do with this.
All right, I think council support heard you. I don't know.
Mr. Chairperson, I'm seeing the same thing on my screen. There's a microphone icon that's muted on that video.
Yes, I'll ask council support to try to unmute that microphone.
Yeah, unfortunately, on our end, it's showing unmuted.
Okay, well, let me do this. I don't want to struggle with the technology right now. I'm going to call up the next panel. Clerk, could you read the next panel while we continue to work on the audio on the video?
The next witness is Dawn Somerville.
Good morning.
Good morning. Would you please identify yourself and your position and provide us with your testimony? Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you, Councilman. Dawn Somerville, Deputy Commerce Director, City of Philadelphia. And good morning, Chairman O and members of the Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative Innovative Economy. My name is Dawn Somerville. I am the Deputy Commerce Director of the Department of Commerce. I'm happy to be here today to provide testimony on Resolution 200339 regarding global best practices for restarting the economy in the wake of the novel coronavirus pandemic. During the onset of the pandemic, various staff within the Department of Commerce organized internally to develop interdisciplinary research and recommendations related to economic recovery and adaptation. We leveraged our internal expertise to examine past recessions, best practices, policies, and reopening measures. This early investigation laid some of the groundwork for later recovery efforts. For example, we worked closely with other departments to announce and expand outdoor dining initiatives in June, making Philadelphia one of the first major cities to do so. We mobilized to deliver 10,000 personal protective equipment kits to small businesses throughout the city, and we worked with health to design industry-specific guidance for reopening with care. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 epidemic is far from over in Philadelphia, and we must continue to work collaboratively to support our businesses and job creators recover for years to come. At the same time, it will take the collective resources of leaders in city government and the business community to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and encourage vaccinations. Commerce remains dedicated to supporting all businesses throughout the city and in all sectors, and we especially look forward to continuing to work alongside Council and others to support the reopening and growth. We do thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your work and the Commerce Department being ready to reopen and restart our city, our economy, and especially our arts and culture sector. I'll ask, do any of the committee members have questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, and I will ask the clerk to call the next panel.
Thank you, Councilman O. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
The next panel is Kerry Park, Mark Danino, Tommy Joyner.
All right. I will ask if Kerry Park is connected and ready to testify.
Good morning. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Thank you, Councilman O, and to the Committee on Global Opportunities for taking this time out to prioritize this issue and for focusing real discussion around the importance of supporting independent art and live entertainment as a priority in Philadelphia. Thank you also for making time today to give their firsthand testimony about the devastating impact that the pandemic has had and continues to have on our industry. Also, thank you to Tom and the hardworking legislative staff for all their efforts. My name is Kerry Park, and I am the COO of World Cafe Live, which is an independent music venue that's been operating out of West Philly since 2004. On March 13th of last year, we went from a vibrant staff of 90 to 10, literally overnight, an average of 17 events a week, welcoming over 150,000 guests annually, to zero. And we've been functioning at an average revenue loss of 94% for the last 14 months and counting, while our overhead costs continue to loom. In addition to mounting bills, we've also experienced a negative cash flow crisis as we returned hundreds of thousands of dollars in refunds to ticket buyers for canceled events and thousands of dollars in canceled event deposits. I'm very humbled and grateful to have been invited here today because the story of my organization is not a singular story. It is actually the story of every independent venue and promoter in the city. I work as a lead organizer for Pivot, which is a collective of over 20 venues and promoters, all operating independently. We were the first to close, and we will absolutely be the last to open. We're here today because small, independent live performance, music, and comedy venues need a serious investment from the city to both survive and thrive as a resilient part of both our cultural and our economic recovery. It took a global crisis to get us all working and talking together, but now that we're here, if given the financial stability to get out of survival mode, the possibilities of what we could accomplish together are truly limitless. We can return safer, more equitable, with a better strategy around hiring, wages, and artist support, and also with a renewed energy to find creative ways to support Philadelphia youth in live music, as well as helping to retain the character of the neighborhoods where we reside. We are grateful for the progress in science and medicine, allowing for what appears to be a reopening light at the end of this very dark tunnel. The fixed costs are still mounting, and we estimate that Philadelphia's small venues will take another collective $13.5 million hit in expenses before we can successfully earn sustainable revenue again. Rent, utilities, payroll, taxes, insurance, and artist pay are not on a sliding scale matching capacity that we are permitted to host. And a grants program from the city would allow us to pass on that money we receive to landlords, local vendors, employees, and artists as we fight to rebuild. We can also get creative about support from the city, including an amusement tax moratorium for small capacity rooms, as well as tax credits for equipment that we'll need to reopen safely. Music and live performance is not what we do, it's who we are, and positively impacting artists and guests alike is what we're waiting for on the other side of this climb. We are part of the fabric that makes Philadelphia both a vibrant place to live and work, but we're also very serious economic drivers. There's a national study that says $1 spent in our venues translates to approximately $12 for other very crucial businesses like restaurants, bars, transportation, hotels, and retail shops. If we lose live performance spaces, we really run the risk of collapsing the creative economy. As devastating as this pandemic has been, it is presenting us with a very rare opportunity. We have the choice now to position ourselves at the center of recovery in Philadelphia. Creative economies do not get created overnight, and we can deliberately decide to invest and expand what already exists. Once we can get beyond the daily need for survival, we can focus our newly bonded collective efforts on that more equitable landscape as truly getting Philadelphia the attention deserves nationally as a recognized music city. And we can follow the lead of other national music cities who are already investing in these communities. And there's a moment here to really focus on what kind of city we want to become and create coming out of this crisis. And I have no doubt that prioritizing arts and culture and the creative economy in our funding as a city will pay off for generations. Thank you very much for the time today.
Thank you very much. I'll ask you if you could stay on until the panel is completed in case there's any questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So now I'll ask if Mark Danino is connected and available to provide his testimony.
I am connected.
Thank you very much. Would you please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony?
My name is Mark Danino. I'm the owner and operator of Chris's Jazz Cafe in Center City, the longest running jazz club in the city. I'm here today to support the reopening and funding of the Philadelphia's creative economy. I believe we can do this in a timely manner that is economically advantageous to our small businesses and the city as a whole, but we need to do this with a multiple facet reopening alignment. The pandemic has caused consumers to become leery of venturing into the city. Many businesses have been closed either temporarily or unfortunately permanently, which has decreased the foot traffic in areas resulting in an increase of litter, vandalism, and crime. We need to get consumer confidence back and show that Philadelphia is open and ready for business. This can be accomplished by cleaning the streets, removing graffiti, finding solutions for the reckless ATV operators, and providing help for our homeless population. Once we have returned Philadelphia to the beautiful walkable city it is, we should launch a robust advertising campaign to spotlight our music venues, big and small. Perhaps we could also offer incentives to bring patrons back to the city in the form of parking passes, free tickets, or discounts that would be backed by the Office of Arts, Cultural, and Creative Economy. Many venues have been struggling to stay afloat, obviously. Chris's was open to audiences only 9 weeks in the last 15 months. We've poured our efforts into streaming shows to keep our staff, musicians, and engineers working, but it has come at a cost. Our venue has lost over $1 million in revenues in 2020. and our musicians have lost over $400,000. And Chris's is only a 115-seat venue. The financial loss of our larger venues must be staggering. Support has come in small bursts via PPP, city and state grants, and SBA loans, but the funding has not been enough. We are still shuttered, and our customers are frustrated with us. We get emails from people pointing out that Philadelphia has been given the okay to reopen, so they don't understand why we keep our doors closed. The reason that we do keep our doors closed is we must keep people 20 feet off of the stage. In my 115-seat venue, if I push people 20 feet away from the stage, I will have 16 seats left. So obviously we wouldn't be opening. To point out some of the economic impact to the city, we would have paid or collected taxes for the city in the last year, a total of $137,000 just from my small club. So if you just take 20 small clubs like mine, the city is missing out on that $2.7 million that they would have collected from our clubs. They're asking us, what do we need from the city? And obviously we need funding, but we need more than that. We need them to help get the people to our front doors. If we just get funding, that's enough for us to continue to pay our rents and our overhead costs, but it doesn't help us rebuild what we had in the past. And I know that some people have talked about this, the rebuilding, and to save the clubs that are already here is the cheaper way to go for the city of Philadelphia. To give you just one example, if somebody wanted to try and open up a jazz club like mine, they would need $150,000 for a liquor license, $50,000 for a piano, and $145,000 in rent in the first year. And you don't even have a table or chair yet. So it's very expensive to open these places. It would be cheaper to help us revive the ones that we have. And not just in the short term. I think that the advertising and promotions that we could do to bring people in should be something that we should look at in the long term and that could be continued. And I'm not talking about advertising, come to the city, come to this Kimmel Center. I'm talking about spotlighting some of the smaller places in some type of advertising to let people know that we're out there. I hope that sheds some light on this, and I hope that I can support this in any way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll ask you if you can stand by till the panel has finished its all the witness testimony in case there are any questions. I'll ask if Tommy Joyner is connected and available.
I am connected and here. Can everybody hear me?
Thank you very much. Would you state your name, identify your position, and provide us with your testimony, please?
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's an important discussion that you're leading today, Councilman. So thank you for doing that. And the other council people are on the Zoom as well. I'm glad to see that there's interest beyond you and City Council. My name's Tommy Joyner, and I own and run a company called Milk Boy. We started as a recording studio in Albany in 1994 and grew from there to we wanted to widen our footprint, and we're financially able to do that in 2006, and we opened our first venue called Milk Boy Coffee. Later, we changed our business model in 2011, and we moved to Chestnut Street at the corner of 11th and Chestnut, not too far from Chris's. And we kind of expanded our venue to a 200 capacity venue. That was a much larger venue for us. We went from a 90 some odd capacity to 200. But just to keep in perspective, like Mark pointed out, the larger venues must have staggering losses. As a 200 cap, we are, of course, we were very hurt by the pandemic. The losses in ticket revenue, we sold over 200,000 tickets a year to shows at Milk Boy. And the Chestnut Street location gave us the opportunity to open on South Street, and we opened another restaurant and bar on South Street in 2016. The studio continues today. It's still in business at 7th and Callow Hill. And we continue to make music. This past year, we composed music for national companies like Nesquik, Nature's Bakery, the NFL, Sunday Night Football, and Dietz and Watson, which is now a very good national brand. And we made platinum-selling records for Ariana Grande and Little Uzi Vert in the last year as well. So we're very connected to music and Philadelphia in a very visceral and real way, very much on the street and forward-facing to people and tourists. Both of our locations are in heavy tourist areas. Our Chestnut Street location is very close to the convention center, and our South Street location is on South Street. It's the city that the name Main Street in Philadelphia that tourists think of when they think of Philadelphia. It certainly was when I moved here. Philadelphia was South Street to me. In March of last year, we shut down all our operations abruptly in response to the city's request, and it was a very sensible and safe request, and we all got it. Everybody did. We understood, and we willingly and gladly closed our doors because nobody wanted this to last. We all thought naively, we'll be home for 6, 8, maybe 10 weeks max, and then we'll be back in business, if only. We remained closed at both our locations until the fall, and then we opened and then closed the Chestnut Street location again until the beginning of March this year. At the end of 2020, just that fiscal year, our losses are well north of $400K that we've spent more than we have earned. Then, of course, to echo some of the other comments, the city's loss is our losses. Sure, we're also in the hole, but I wonder how the city's making up for the loss in liquor tax revenue, which between our two locations is well north of $250,000, and then not to mention our entertainment tax and the other taxes that we pay that go into the city's coffers. During the last year, the studio reopened first, but at a reduced capacity. Our numbers are well down from the prior year. South Street was able to reopen in September, and we were able to stay open. And I want to compliment the city. The city generously gave us the parking spaces out front. We were able to build a parklet where we basically built another building out front of our building where people could come. And if it was too cold, they couldn't. They really couldn't. And my propane bill is enormous. But I was able to keep my people employed, and with the PPP loans we applied for and got all the loans. And also I want to give a special shout out to the PIDC, which also gave us a grant that kept us in business. And so I felt Philadelphia, I'm very proud of our city of how we handled the pandemic. I think it was responsible, and I think it was appropriate. I think the response wasn't measured. It was appropriate. It was extreme and had to be. And we are absolutely looking forward to having concerts again and reopening, but we need your help to do that. The city gave us a parklet when we were able to stay open after September through that second wave. We were able to stay open outdoors on South Street, but Chestnut, of course, we closed again. We don't have 11th and Chestnut is a very busy corner. It's a bus route. It's right out in front of a hospital. There's emergency vehicles going by. There is no parking on Chestnut Street, so that wasn't an option. So we closed again in November and stayed closed until the beginning of this March. But we are open again and are clawing our way back to some sort of normalcy. We are still well behind our numbers. We're not having shows yet, and we're still operating in the red. You mentioned in some of the previous testimony about the amount of money coming from the Fed, and I wondered if how much of that could be spent on entertainment or on the creative economy. I think it's well known that venues and arts-based businesses generate dollars not just in those businesses but in all the businesses around them. We bring people to the city. We give people a place to go. We generate nightlife out after the show is over, and we generate hotel stays, and we generate a lot of cash that goes back to the city in the form of taxes. And of course, we desperately need it to come back towards us now. I think that's fairly well recognized among this group of people. But I wonder if there's, if with that influx of federal dollars, there could be a moratorium on entertainment tax, or maybe a hard look at things like, well, this parklet in front of our South Street location, if that could stay and become a permanent fixture. The city has actually seemed lively because of the restaurants having parklets outside, even though the city is far from lively. It's nothing like what it was, but it's been a lifeline and it looks good. It looks beautiful. Some of the parklets are quite good looking and attractive and make people want to go out. But if there is a moratorium or a removal of entertainment tax, or if you are paying liquor tax, perhaps in that situation, the entertainment tax can go away for those kind of places. Obviously, it's a tough business to be in already. And between the three businesses, we were almost a $5 million a year operation, and the profit on that is less than 5%. And in other industries, that's a laughable number. But in the entertainment industry, which, like Carrie said, this is not just what we do; it's who we are. We chose this because of some defect within ourselves that makes it so important that we provide entertainment to people. And there's a lot of benefits for that, including to us. It feels good to do it. The money has never been what's felt good because that's not what we get out of this. But we are fortunate enough to make a living, and the tax burden can seem pretty onerous even in the best of times. So I would like to maybe offer that out as a way to help us, and including whatever else can be done to help us reopen safely.
All right. Thank you very much. I will ask my colleagues, are there any questions for anyone on this panel?
Councilmember O, this is Councilmember Thomas. I just want to say thank you to this panel. All the panels have been great, but I just thought that some of the information that was just provided was extremely informative, put it from the perspective of providers as we think about how to reopen our city and reopen our economy. So just wanted to give this panel a shout out, really informative, but the other panels have been great as well too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Thomas. I will ask the panel members, I mean, the issue of what is going to be done with the $1.4 billion that is coming to this city is a question that ultimately is decided by the voters. It's decided through the voters, through the elected representatives of the voters. If the voters say to their elected officials, you're getting $1.4 billion, and we want to see money from that put into reopening, revitalizing one of the key economic engines of this city that not only provide an income, but provide an answer to people who are facing a lack of hope in their life, getting involved in crime, gun violence, and other things. But I do think that from this testimony, I would like to gather what kind of money are we talking about. And I am getting testimony about tremendous losses, small venues with significant losses multiplied by many venues, some really large, unique entities like the Philadelphia Orchestra, trying to add all those things together. What type of fund, like when we look at New York or LA, a arts fund, what do you think, in addition to what you've talked about, the legislative answers, the liquor tax, the moratorium on the entertainment tax, COVID-19 technology, those type of things, and investment into trying to bring people back into Philadelphia that may have something to do with the non-resident wage tax and marketing and other things. What amount of money do you think should be, ballpark figure, in a arts fund for Philadelphia?
I'm not sure who wants to take that one. That's a tough.
It is a tough one. If we know the numbers from last year, I think that we talked about that already, what that total number is. One of the things that is being done through the SVOG grants is 45% is going to be given to operators that qualify of their 2019 revenues. So I think if we could use that as a guideline, I think that might be able to answer this question a little easier. And I just wanted to bring one other thing up. I know that we talked, and I've heard people talk about the entertainment tax and the liquor taxes and getting rid of those for a time period. But I don't think that really needs to happen, because those aren't expenses to us. We're just collecting those from the guest to give to the city. So if they went away, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't impact us as operators in any way.
Okay. It's interesting to me. I'm going to gather, from the other panels, because we have fashion and by the way, a fund is not only dealing with the losses of COVID, it's also investing in the future of this city's creative arts economy. So with that, I'm going to thank you for your testimony and your prior testimony, where actually, yes, I do have those numbers. Just wanted to see if there were any changes. If there are no other questions, I'll ask the clerk to call the next panel. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, before I call the next panel, I've been told that they have the video ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. We'll see the video.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joseph Wooten. I'm also known as the Hands of Soul. I play the keyboards and I sing with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted Steve Miller and his Steve Miller Band. And I'm happy to be here today to address the councilors in the great city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to help reunite the arts and culture community. My brothers and I are so excited to come up from Nashville, a city that leads with its music and its art and its culture, very similar to Pennsylvania, who leads with its music, its arts, and its culture. And we're excited to come up and try to help unite that art and culture community so we can open up again. I've had great experience with the Eagle X Pro solution. It's been a game changer for me. But I want to say arts and culture are so important because the most important quality of a city is its culture. And it's important for the best part of culture to go forward. And the best part of culture goes forward through its elected representatives. So you have an important job, and I'm happy to be here addressing you. So I'm going to do a song right now that has a theme that's important for anything to be successful, togetherness. This is a song entitled, We Are All in This Together. If you're poor, you've still got your worth. It don't make you last because you're not first. The sun shines on you, the sun shines on me. If we don't get that together, then we're still not free. I know that love is meant for us all, and I'll pick you up if ever you fall. If you need this song, I'll sing it for you. And if you need more, then I'll do that too. When life gets you down, hold your head up high. And there ain't no shame in the tears that you cry. If I believe in you and you believe in me, then one day the truth will set us all free. Free as a bird to be who we are. It's like those words, everybody is a star in the sky that shines on everyone. Says that we keep on pushing, we shall overcome the past and overcome the hatred and preserve the things in life that are sacred. The kiss from your mother, a hug from your dad, and keep gratitude for the things that we have. Listen, we don't have to be perfect, but we've got to do better, because we are all in this together. Everybody sing it, y'all. We are all in this together. If we can just find forgiveness, there'd be no need to be bitter. Because we are all in this. We are all in this together. If we can just find forgiveness, there'd be no need to be bitter. Because we are all in this together. The Wooten Brothers will see you July 6th in the great city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right, thank you very much. Three-time Grammy nominated artist and his brothers, 10 Grammy Awards between them. Fantastic. Clerk, would you please call the next panel?
The next panel is Louis Scaglione, Ellen Trainer, and Bernard Resnick.
All right, thank you. I will ask if Louis Scaglione is connected and available to testify.
Thank you, Councilman. I am here.
Thank you very much. All right, would you please state your name, identify your position, and give us your testimony?
Thank you. My name is Louis Scaglione, and I'm the President Music Director of the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra Music Institute. Founded in 1939, the PYO Music Institute has been serving children, students, and young adults in the Philadelphia and the greater Delaware Valley region for over 81 years. I would first like to thank Councilman David O. for inviting me to join my distinguished colleagues and testify on behalf of the arts and culture sector here in the city of Philadelphia. I would also like to thank Councilman O for his steadfast and resolute support of the arts and culture sector and creative economy. In March 2020, PYO Music Institute launched virtual instruction due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Since last March and for the period of 1 year, we have witnessed the perseverance and resilience of our students and faculty. PYO Music Institute implemented 3,171 total hours of virtual instruction, 734 Zoom music ensemble rehearsals and sectionals, and 25 virtual performance video recordings supported by 71 faculty members serving over 525 students from the Philadelphia and greater Delaware Valley region. In the summer of 2020, we created a COVID-19 response committee comprised of PYO Music Institute's Board of Trustees and staff to monitor and track research to determine the best practices for return to in-person activities. After months of preparing to welcome students back to the rehearsal hall safely, PYO Music Institute successfully returned to in-person rehearsals and instruction on February 6, 2021. Several new health and safety precautions were implemented for in-person rehearsals, including the installation of multiple in-room HEPA-rated air purification units, iWave-R bipolar ionization air filtration devices, and upgraded MERV-rated air filters installed in the rehearsal hall HVAC central system. a new electrostatic sprayer and EPA-rated viricide to disinfect surfaces between rehearsals and instruction periods, special instrument-specific PPE for woodwinds and brass instruments, plexiglass shields around each woodwind and brass musician, pre-rehearsal health screening requirements for all students, modified rehearsal schedules, and additional space for family members to wait away from students during rehearsals. All of these safety protocols and more are listed in the PYO Music Institute's COVID-19 Response Operations Manual, which is continually updated as new studies and CDC recommendations are released. In 2017, the Citizens for the Arts in Pennsylvania reported the arts generated $4.1 billion in economic activity in the greater Philadelphia region. The city of Philadelphia represented $3.4 billion of those dollars in total impact, $930 million in household income, and $157 million in total tax revenue. Through 2018, 2019, and until the pandemic closed down our society in March of 2020, the arts and culture sector was thriving. It not only added to the overall economic impact of the city and region, but added to the quality of life in immeasurable ways. As a resident of Philadelphia for nearly 30 years, I have witnessed the growth of the arts and culture sector into a diverse and dynamic ecosystem supporting our community, employing thousands of people and enriching the lives of so many more. Conversely, the COVID-19 Economic Impact Survey from the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance estimates that the city's region's arts and culture sector lost $371 million from March of 2020 to March of 2021. The report found that 38% of the nearly 290 organizations reporting have canceled or significantly reduced their social impact programming serving vulnerable populations, including children and peoples with disabilities. The report also found that the beginning of 2021 and through the end of September will be a critical time of utmost financial need for many organizations as they continue to survive. Without action by the City of Philadelphia, the data gathered by the Cultural Alliance suggests 41% of the arts and culture sector in the 5-county region will be lost by fall of 2021. However, and despite the gravity of this matter, Mayor Jim Kenney's $5.18 billion budget proposed for fiscal 2022, which makes use of $575 million in federal stimulus funds only to increase the Philadelphia Cultural Fund to $2 million. This de minimis amount is still 33% less than the Cultural Fund's pre-pandemic paltry allocation of $3.14 million. Each year, the arts and culture sector always seems to have to struggle to obtain the proper recognition from our leaders in government. The data is clear and indisputable. We in the arts and culture sector should not have to continually justify our worth and value in our city in order to convince either city council or the mayor that the city should economically invest in the sector in meaningful and impactful ways. To that end, I would encourage City Council and Mayor to reinvest 10% of the total tax revenues the arts and culture sector generates for the City of Philadelphia on an annual basis. If we use the data from 2017, that would then equate to $15.7 million. These funds would be used to fund and support the arts and culture sector to the inure benefit of our city and its citizens. Then they must invest meaningfully and in impactful ways. The arts and culture sector is resilient, strong, and determined. With serious investment and reinvestment by the City of Philadelphia, the sector will be able to meet the immediate challenges of public health and safety, to successfully restart the creative economy and propel it into a prosperous future. Philadelphia Youth Orchestra Music Institute is committed to participating in that success by utilizing our resources and to work with our community partners and our friends at City Hall to ensure the arts and culture sector thrives in the City of Philadelphia now and for future generations to come. Thank you for your kind consideration.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll ask you if you could stand by in case there's any questions at the end of the testimony of everyone on this panel. With that, I'll ask if Ellen Trainer is connected and available.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Please state your name, identify your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Thank you, Council Member O. Thank you, City Council representatives. My name is Ellen Trainer. I am the president of the Philadelphia Musicians Union, Local 77, of the American Federation of Musicians. Together with our brothers and sisters from neighboring performing arts labor unions, we encompass over 4,200 working professionals in the entertainment industry. Approximately 88% of our members are freelance musicians. These musicians have to piece together an income between a variety of employers. Many of these members have gone months without any assistance from unemployment or pandemic unemployment compensation. They've had to sell their instruments, their vehicles, and in some cases, even their homes. While this is not an uncommon story during the pandemic, it is one that begs the question, why aren't the arts and culture sectors getting the help commensurate with the value that they bring to our city? The city of Philadelphia and many of its leaders don't seem to understand the importance of the Philadelphia art scene on the city's economy. In 2016, for example, 42 million visitors came to Philadelphia and spent a record $6.7 billion. 11%, or nearly $737 million, was spent in the recreation sector, which includes spending on arts and culture in the region. The Pennsylvania arts and culture sector represents 3.5% of the state's GDP, only behind retail and construction, and it supports over 176,000 jobs. As president of Local 77, I have seen firsthand the effects of the pandemic on our arts community. Artists are being forced to choose other career paths. This is dangerous for our city because our reputation in the arts world helps to fuel the tourism in Philadelphia. Nonprofit arts generate $27.5 billion in revenue for city, county, and state governments. Philadelphia is a leader in the arts and culture world, and yet the budget for the city of Philadelphia has the arts and recreation below other in its budgetary proposal. On page 22 of the City of Philadelphia's 5-year plan proposal, I quote, "The Office of Special Events, the Office of the City Representative, and the Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy will cease to exist. After all that arts and culture bring to this city, you are going to completely eliminate these offices? As our elected officials, I urge you to do better. To preserve our talent pool and to make sure that the arts can recover from this, we are asking the city to provide funding for 25 outreach programs per month. These performances would be free and open to the public and would take place in various locations throughout our city. There are several parks and recreation centers throughout Philadelphia whose local communities would benefit greatly from live music. We need to invest in the areas of our city that are most in need. An investment in helping to bring live music to our community is one that benefits both the artists and the communities that so desperately need it. This funding would additionally serve to employ local musicians and to preserve the talent pool that our city has to offer. The amount needed for this investment would total approximately $1.5 million. Without arts and culture, Philadelphia communities cannot fully recover. Arts organizations are vital contributors to the nonprofit sector. There is no economic recovery unless a working creative engine is driving it. To rebuild after the devastating effects of the pandemic, we must put creativity to work in Philadelphia. This begins with the relief and recovery funding for the creative sector now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'll ask if you could stand by. We have one more witness for this panel. I'll ask if Bernard Resnick is connected and available.
Yes, Councilman, I'm here. I'm available. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please state your name, identify your position, and provide us with your testimony. Thank you.
Certainly. My name is Bernie Resnick. As you can see behind me, I'm an entertainment lawyer and musician, and I've been running a small boutique entertainment law firm with my wife, Sally Madison, here in the Philadelphia region for many, many years. In fact, next week I'm going into my 35th year as a lawyer. I've submitted written testimony, so I know everyone's time is limited here, and I'm proud to be on a panel with such esteemed co-panelists, as well as the other wonderful people that have spoken today, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak. First, I'd like to talk about the effect of the pandemic on our firm. This has spread around the globe for over a year now. It's taken a substantial physical, emotional, and financial toll on our practice. We two lawyers have been working 7 days a week for nearly 14 months, as the stress on our clients caused by the pandemic has been severe. As a service business, we strive to assist those in need. And like in a marriage, our professional ethics dictate that we commit to helping our clients in the bad times as well as the good. So in an emergency like the present one, we've been on call for our clients every hour of the day, every day of the week, nights, weekends, and holidays. We've been forced to discount our fees, delay payment, or waive our legal fees in order to assist our clients who suddenly can't afford to pay us. Yet they're desperate for us to continue to look after their legal needs. In short, although we are busier than we've ever been, and despite the extra time we've spent servicing our clientele, our firm's revenue has diminished by approximately 25%, all during a time when social distance restrictions have made it impossible for us to have our customary and frequent physical presence in the region's cultural activities. Now, this unexpected long-term emergency has unfortunately also caused corresponding stress on many of our clients' emotional well-being and family lives. So because of the long-term trusted relationship we have with many of our clients, we have also spent countless hours during the past year counseling our clients about their non-entertainment law issues, including, for example, their family health problems, financial troubles, substance abuse, depression, loneliness, physical health, emotional well-being. The restrictions on cultural and arts activities required by the pandemic have resulted in many of our clients seeing their livelihoods and income vanish overnight. Dozens of our clients have suddenly been stripped of their ability to earn a living, to feed themselves, and provide for their families without any prior notice or warning. The nature of the personalities of many creators drives them to always want to work on something new, to be in the presence of other collaborators, and to receive the gratification that comes from performing before an audience. COVID-19 has destroyed the essence of their careers like a bolt of lightning out of the blue. Albeit significant for us, the financial hardship on our firm is small when you consider the fact that we service approximately 150 active clients at any given time. My estimate of the aggregate financial loss to the clients of our small law firm in the past year is approximately $2 to $4 million. And when one considers the fact that we're just one of multiple entertainment law firms in the region, the financial effect of COVID-19 on the creative economy of the Philadelphia region is staggering. And in fact, after I submitted my written testimony just yesterday afternoon, I got an email from a group called Philly Culture United. And I'd just like to read you one line where it says the estimated total revenue loss for the entire greater Philadelphia arts and culture sector from March 2020 to March 2021 for the past year is $371.7 million. And 41% of the organizations that responded to Philly Culture United survey said that they're not likely to survive beyond this fall. So all that being said, I have some suggestions for some remedies. While there's no dispute that a plethora of arts organizations and cultural activities, which we normally see in William Penn's green country town, are a significant contributor to Philadelphia's tax base and to the region's overall value as an attractive tourist destination for visitors and the proud home of millions of souls. So in my opinion, in order to compete for tourism, to retain local residents, the city should take 3 steps. 1, the city should invest in its cultural economy by providing dedicated funding for arts and cultural events, presenters, venues, creators, and entertainers. A separate, independent, fully funded arts fund within the city budget, as well as dedicating a portion of the anticipated financial assistance coming from the federal government to the creative economy, is an obvious and sensible investment in the city's future. 2, you should allocate a portion of the 5% amusement tax which the city collects on all for-profit ticket sales to fund the arts, especially since artistic events generate the amusement tax in the first place. 3, You should create a taxpayer-funded, permanent, fully staffed arts and culture office, which should be charged with developing and implementing programming that entertains the public, supports creators and venues, gives the next generation of creators of all backgrounds an equal opportunity to enter the entertainment industry, and serves as an ambassador, cheerleader, and advocate for the rich cultural heritage which will continue to benefit the residents and visitors of our fair city. I appreciate your time, attention, and consideration. Thank you for listening, and I'll stand by if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Bernie. I'd just like the public to know that Bernie is too humble. I always have to say he is a top-notch, internationally recognized and, just outstanding entertainment lawyer, as well as his wife, who's a top-notch movie and film industry lawyer. Two outstanding attorneys.
Much appreciated, counsel.
I can give you further praises by naming your clients, but I won't do that. Anyway, I just want my colleagues to know these are outstanding people that are testifying to us today. I'll ask if anyone on the committee has any questions for the witnesses on this panel. Seeing none, I will thank you for your testimony, and we will proceed from here. Thank you very much. Clerk, would you call the next panel of witnesses?
The next panel is David Ivory, Max Orchester, Kevin Parker, and Sharon Pinkinson.
All right, thank you very much. In that order, I'll ask you to please identify yourselves, your positions, and provide us with your testimony. Thank you very much. Starting with, I believe David Ivory was first.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Please state your name, identify your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Okay. Good morning, and I'd like to thank you for giving me a voice regarding our creative economy today. And I'd like to echo everyone's thanks for you, Councilman O, for always leading the charge for helping the arts and the creative economy. And thank you, City Council, for being here at this hearing. My name is David Ivory. I'm a Grammy-nominated and multi-platinum music engineer, a producer, former president and the national trustee of the Recording Academy, otherwise known as the Grammys, and currently the director of the Sound Recording and Music Technology program at Montgomery County Community College. I share a little bit of my background with you to demonstrate my experience and how I've dedicated my life to the Philadelphia music industry. But now I want to take you back 4 years ago. In August 2017, knowing that the music industry needed help, even then, the City Council passed the creation of the Music Industry Task Force to look at the economic impact of the music industry and to articulate ways that the city can help support the music industry, of which Philadelphia is so famous for. The Music Industry Task Force looked at other music cities such as New York, Nashville, and Seattle over the course of 2 years. We were doing this to enhance the, we also held networking events with emerging artists and professional musicians and music makers to get a sense of what the challenges are from the ground. That combined with the collective experience and knowledge from the task force members, we came up with the following recommendations. The task force developed 9 of them over the course of the 2 years, which we encapsulated in the Music Industry Task Force report and recommendations that we released in 2019. Understanding that resources are limited at the time, the task force surveyed broader music community and narrowed our 9 recommendations to the following 3 priorities. The task force strongly believes that these 3 highlighted recommendations will reduce barriers for musical artists and industry, recognize, honor, promote awareness of the achievement and activities of the Philadelphia music community, and create more opportunities for musicians that will positively impact Philadelphia's economy. All this was studied, discussed, and researched, and was culminating with a hearing that was going to be held March 12, 2020, of which we had over 300 RSVPs. Unfortunately, 2 days before that, the city basically just shut down because of COVID, and we never really had our hearing. So please realize everything I just talked about was pre-pandemic. So given that, it's obvious after the pandemic, there's even more of a need for not only this, but many other things. I know that the city budget cut the cultural arts budget to zero right after the pandemic. Then from an outcry went to 1.3 million. Now I hear that it was doubled, but still that's not even at the level of funding pre-pandemic. So obviously we need much more. So like Bernie just talked about, because he was on the panel, he was on the task force as well, our first and major priority, and we've talked to so many industry leaders and musicians, and it was literally 2.5 years of putting this together. We wanted to establish a centralized permanent entity, such as the Philadelphia Music Office, to continue the mission and work of the Music Industry Task Force. Properly fostering the development of music making and music makers in the city of Philadelphia is a full-time endeavor that requires a budget and staff. Establishing a permanent music office for the music industry would provide a permanent resource to carry out these recommendations in the report and recommendations we heard today. The music office staff would also be responsible for the coordination and collaboration with other musical organizations in the city of Philadelphia to shape the future of Philadelphia music economy and to promote the Philadelphia music economy. Right now, we have a lot of silos going on. We have like the hip hop community, the country community, the rock community, but they're all separated. They're not all together, or they're not being promoted in a cohesive way, and we feel that that's very important. And we feel that making this happen is not going to cost as much as anyone may think. For example, the office could take the lead in developing solutions to preserve Philadelphia's music heritage through support of sites like Sigma Sound Studio and John Coltrane House for a museum. We estimated that to establish such an office and staffing would be in the area of $200,000 a year, with $150,000 marketing and launch to roll it out. We would also help to save costs because we would like to house it right in City Hall. This is a drop in the bucket compared to the tax revenues that the city takes in for ticket sales, like Bernie mentioned, 5%, which is always in the millions, which we never really see directly where that money comes from. Another point would be to identify sources of funding for sustained, dedicated efforts to grow Philadelphia music economy. Like any other industry, the music industry will not grow in Philadelphia unless it is financially invested in. It's just plain and simple. Local government can help make Philadelphia a more attractive location for the music industry by offering financial incentives. Too often, artists, musicians, and music professionals, and this has been happening for a long time, often leave. Once achieving their highest benefits in the music industries, that has to offer typically more, move out of the city, like Nashville, LA, or now Atlanta, for better tax benefits and a more vibrant music scene. Some suggestions include developing local tax incentives for producers of large-scale events, such as Made in America, to include more Philadelphia-based talents. The tax abatements that exist in Philadelphia for new construction or rehabilitation could be modeled for the creation of music facilities. Local officials could also urge state officials to create music production tax credits akin to the pre-existing film production tax credits available from the state. A third one, develop our awareness campaign for fair compensation of working musicians. Right now, we hear all the stories about musicians losing their houses, their homes, what have you. The issue is they were never paid enough to begin with. I think people think music is free, and because of the way it works, but it really isn't free. The omnipresence of music and the proliferation of amateur musicians sometimes causes a sense in the public that music is performed and it costs nothing. In truth, performing music is the musician's livelihood. Musicians are professionals and should be compensated accordingly. A music office can come up with strategies to deal with these challenges. We all must understand that music is not free. And the last thing, which wasn't really part of our recommendations, but we know that it's a priority, is that we want to conduct an economic impact study of the music industry of Philadelphia. A study would identify a baseline of the current economic impact of Philadelphia's music industry and provide descriptions of the occupations within that industry. Unfortunately, all the studies until now were embedded with combining hospitality, tourism, and the like. The music industry needs its own study to better understand how it contributes to Philadelphia's economy. Some of the quotes we received to do such a study was in the 25,000 to 40,000 area. In conclusion, I hope that this committee will continue to support Philadelphia's music sector and provide the resources needed to create a permanent Philly music office. Your support of these steps are vital to preserving Philadelphia's heritage as a music force in the country and the world. We have a huge legacy of music that we cannot take for granted, and we feel that that's got to change. And with that, I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, David. Please stand by. We're going to move on to the next witness in this panel. Clerk, who's the next witness?
It is Max Orchestra.
Okay, thank you. Are you connected and available?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Sure. My name is Maxwell Ochester. I am a small business owner here in Philadelphia. I own Brewerytown Beats Record Shop. And I just want to say thank you, Councilman O, for holding this and all the other council members for showing up for this. Like I said, I run Brewerytown Beats Record Shop. I also have Brewerytown Records, which is a reissue label that focuses on preserving the legacy and telling the story of Philadelphia music through physical, digital releases, as well as social media awareness campaigns. I also sit on the board of the newly formed Philadelphia Heritage Music Council, whose focus is on preserving the rich history of Philadelphia's music. Through some of my research, I became aware of the fact that the Sigma Sound studio building was the last standing building from what I call the golden era of Philadelphia music. And I brought that to the attention of the Preservation Alliance in 2019. And along with them, and helping with the nomination, we had an incredible outpouring of support from the music community, both local and national, especially the former engineers of Sigma Sound Studios, as well as the owner of Joe Tarsia. And in November of 2020, the Philadelphia Historic Commission, in a unanimous decision, added the Sigma building to the city's Register of Historic Places. In my opinion, this is the most important culturally important thing that we can do in Philadelphia, is to support the arts, culture, and tourism industries, highlighting Philadelphia's history of music history, but also showcasing Philadelphia's importance and contribution to soul music, specifically the Philly sound as we know it, as well as African-American music culture worldwide. What I'm proposing today is some funding allocated to the Philadelphia Museum of Music History and Recording Arts, which is something that is an idea that has been going around between my group for some time now, since we realized that that museum, or that building, the Sigma Sound Studio building, is still standing, and what potentially could become of the building. In Detroit, you have the Motown Museum, and in Memphis, you have Stax Museum and Sun Records studios. In New Orleans, you even have Preservation Hall, and Philadelphia deserves to be included in those cities in a list like that. We see that there are two ways to secure the building. It could be purchased outright from the current owners. We have been negotiating on and off with their real estate. The real estate gentleman who deals with them directly. And the overall concept would be to have a small venue and cafe space, as well as a gift shop with tours, performances, events, also the exact duplication of the original Studio A of Sigma Sound, where we know where the original equipment is, and we would like to bring that back to Philadelphia. We're looking at potentially, and this is going into the future, a budget of around $30 million for something like this. And this is based on comparisons with those other museums I mentioned in the other cities, particularly the Motown Museum in Detroit. And we think that the investment would continue to develop that neighborhood just north of Market Street there, and could be It's in a unique position where it could be actually the first museum built with COVID precautions in mind, which is very interesting. We have some additional partners that we'd like to mention, one being educational partners, somebody, the Drexel University and their Sigma Sound archive that they have, Temple University and University of Penn. Also would like to bring Comcast and other engineering programs in. I guess in closing, I just want to say thank you. And I hope to have the opportunity to discuss this in greater detail in the future. And it's, to me, in my opinion, it's not just that Sigma Sound Museum, but we could invest in things like David mentioned, like the John Coltrane House that has been fallen into disrepair. So this is a second chance for us, and I'd like to see us act before it's too late. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the next witness is Kevin Parker. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Is Kevin Parker connected and available?
I am connected and available.
All right. Fantastic. Please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Yes, my name is Kevin Parker. I am the co-founder of Philadelphia Fashion Week, and I am the co-chair for the Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force. Councilman O, would like to thank you and the body of council for having this meeting today. And I'm honored to be here to speak amongst all of these amazing people for such an amazing cause. So, the Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force was inspired by myself, my business partner, Carrie Scott, with the help of Councilman O, and established by the City of Council in February of 2020. The Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force is made up of a diverse group of individuals and business professionals that have extensive experience and hands-on insight in the fashion and garment industry. Our task force consists of 13 individuals, professionals such as Fern Malice, the creator of New York Fashion Week, Michelle Shannon, the Senior Vice President of Marketing in Center City District, Elisa Bloom, the Director of the Philadelphia Fashion Incubator, Rachel Ford, the owner of Mead Institute, and Shelley Juliana Ortiz, the Chair of the Fashion Department Program at Moore College of Art, just to name a few. We also have a subcommittee of 5 individuals who all have a common goal to further enrich the fashion and garment industry in the city of Philadelphia. Our subcommittee agenda include sustainability, manufacturing, events, education, designers, boutique, diversity, and inclusion. Our mission for the Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force is to elevate and reinforce the presence of fashion in Philadelphia in order to improve the local economy, create employment opportunities, and provide resources for local designers and businesses. Last fall, we actually fundraised and awarded $10,000 in grants to 5 local fashion businesses and provided educational resources and through mentorship to help further their entrepreneurship goals and to scale. The impact of Philadelphia Fashion Week. Over the past 16 years, we've had events and we've hired and contracted over 900 businesses and contractors, including venues, caterers, decor companies, event rental companies, lighting, audiovisual, event security, and the list goes on and on and on. We have over 1,000 people that attend per day over the course of 6 days, providing the city with travelers, shoppers, diners, hotel guests. And on average, we have over 200 models, up to 60 designers, and an array of support staff. With that giving context to my point, why should the Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force, or why should the garment industry itself be funded? In Center City alone, there are 551 retailers, but 72 of them are now closed permanently. In 2018, Philadelphia generated over $365 million in the retail industry. The number one activity for tourists in Philadelphia in 2019 was shopping, spending $1.1 billion in retail. In February of 2021, there are still 81,700 jobs, fewer jobs than there was in February of 2020. Philadelphia has a huge opportunity to expand its independent designer and boutique opportunities as we have opportunities that are being called the migration. We have over 7,500 New Yorkers that are moving to Philadelphia from New York City. The Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force, the fashion and garment industry is grossly underfunded, but here are some opportunities. Just look at New York Fashion Week. New York Fashion Week's economic impact is $887 million. New York Fashion Week accounts for 5.5% of the city's workforce and pays $11 billion in wages and generates nearly $2 billion in tax revenue annually. New York Fashion Week wholesale market is one of the world's largest, attracting more than 500,000 per year into its trade shows, fashion shows, and events. Overall, the industry generates $18 billion in retail sales. So we're already behind the curve. Why does this matter? Philadelphia Fashion Week organization is officially joined the CFDA, the Council of Fashion Designers of America. We have joined the CFDA Connects Leadership Committee as founding members. The CFDA Connects program will benefit our organization through events, promotion, business support, resources, membership privileges, workshops, and curated in the workshops. This was curated to benefit the designers and entrepreneurs that we serve in our communities. This program was created significantly to amplify our collective mission, to expand our reach, creative awareness, and strengthen our connection on the pulse of business, commerce, media, and trade in American and in the global fashion industry. Our plan to grow the fashion community in Philadelphia, saving retail. Philadelphia Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force will host trunk shows and extended pop-up shops in vacant retail spaces. Our goal is to partner with city government and work with landlords to keep our retail sector thriving. The mass migration of New York's moving to Philadelphia, we cannot afford to leave so many vacant storefronts empty. Our program will help emerging designers that are looking to scale and occupy spaces, redefining what high fashion is and elevating our local designers. While also protecting property value and increasing jobs. Jobs created with that program will be cashiers, customer service reps, visual merchandisers, buyer assistants, store managers, inventory, etc. The economic development project that we're working on as a task force and as an organization is the Maison Project. This project was created to fill the void of accessible resources that are necessary to the building blocks of entrepreneurship. The Maison Project is comprised of 4 main houses: retail, manufacturing, amenities, and events. Manufacturing. Our goal is to open a manufacturing facility in the city of Philadelphia. Today, many designers face the obstacle of the lack of manufacturing and access to funding for business development. Too many rely on overseas production. And we want to work with the city to promote bought here, made here, by focusing on developing a business development program and build a manufacturing resource center offering educational programming, small to medium run production, and feature the newest machinery and technology, textiles and fabric sourcing. Through operating with a membership business model, we will be able to create a training and trade programs and a resource for designers to access machines to produce more quality products. Why is this important? We have all learned a valuable lesson when we had no access to personal protective equipment. And with the local design community came together by donating PPE to the local hospitals and medical field workers through Cover Aid PHL by producing 7,000 masks and PPE for local medical field workers. We were at the mercy of international manufacturing. This will also provide jobs for sewers, pattern makers, cutters, production managers, textile designers, sewing machine operators, pressers, other workers. Retail aspect of the Maison Project. Our goal in a retail space within the Maison Project that designers, and it takes each company doing a celebration that helps them grow and navigate the retail. They're giving them a real life experience in dealing with retail to forge relationships, big box retail, mom and pop retail, or to branch out and open their own mortars. Amenity, open co-working space, rooms, accessibility machines, access to quality photography and videography studio. All the things that we're trying to accommodate within the Maison Project. Fashion Task Force, our educational programming, we plan on public programs, having speakers of industry professionals, and the Fashion Garment Industry Task Force hosts quarterly speakers and industry job development workshops. We will create a bridge program for the top performing schools and universities for internship, placement, training programs, and build the Maison to help build the Maison Project and the Fashion Garment Task Force. The space, having an event space specifically for the community that accommodates what we're this will be a space where designers can go to collections to buyers, private clients, or overall fashion and also be able to have exhibitions, panel discussions, weddings, conferences, runway shows, corporate events as another form of revenue to continue to be an economic engine. The business development projects and workshops, we will give designers and entrepreneurs access to lawyers, grant writers, marketing professionals, business consulting, accountants, web and graphic designers. As a member of the Support Philly Fashion Campaign, you will have weekly access of 20 hours per week to these professionals. Textile and Recycling Center, sustainability, our challenges. The Philadelphia processes 40,000 tons of textile waste annually, costing the city $2 million annually. Retriever alone has collected 26,000 pounds of clothing from 468 households. Some solutions: fabric bank. Designers and students can trade fabric and use for our source of fabric scrap or dead stock to create sustainable way of operating and giving what would often become discarded materials new life. A scotch mill. By using flax, we will be able to develop agricultural supply chain and produce natural materials, textiles that can be sold and used to create quality, sustainable fabrics. And by giving flax, they can also naturally remove toxins from our soil.
Kevin, I'm gonna interrupt because you've said a lot.
I'm at the tail end. I really am.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. And our youth entrepreneurship. Our goal is to create the youth enrichment program starting with the middle school through high school level to provide free training programs for our future entrepreneurs, training them on the stepping stones to create on creating garments, producing small-scale fashion shows, and the numerous roles it takes to produce events, and how to create and price garments, how to source fabrics, and how to dye and upcycle garments. As a young man growing up in inner city, programs and arts programs like this is what helped shape my outlook on life and what helped keep me off the streets as well. Support Philly Fashion Grant Program. Our goal is to provide not only funds, but educational programming and mentorship to assure the appropriation of funds and elevate the fashion and garment industry in Philadelphia. Our objective is to aid from A to Z in the process of business development to identify the needs and achieve success. Our main goal is to provide capital to our designers and boutiques looking to scale. Our organization will dedicate half of our grant specifically to designers of color who are often underrepresented in fashion, using this grant to identify social justice issues and also be sure to have equal opportunity of access and ensure the success of our community at large. Too often programs are funded that don't necessarily have a plan to become a sustainable business, but we have a plan for this to be an economic engine and also that could also run itself. And I do believe that we have a solid plan that we could revolutionize the fashion industry in Philadelphia, especially with our new partnership with the CFDA. We have international eyes looking at the fashion community here, and we have a unique opportunity to take full advantage. So this is the perfect time because I don't think the fashion community has ever been funded. And I think if we were able to have a fair chance, we could literally become a multi-billion-dollar industry here in Philadelphia, especially with the unique opportunities that we have available. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I'm going to ask if the next witness is connected and available. That's Sharon Pinkinson.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Thank you. Please state your name, identify your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Thank you, Councilman David O. My name is Sharon Pinkinson. I'm pretty sure that everybody on City Council knows me, knows who I am, but my name is Sharon Pinkinson. I have served as the Executive Director of the Greater Philadelphia Film Office since January 1992. There was no real film industry here, but for the occasional productions that came to Philadelphia before GPFO was born. In 1991, the film industry spent $2.1 million in Philadelphia, and nearly all of the crew and actors traveled from elsewhere, and then went home to LA or New York. Today, the GPFO's cumulative economic impact is over $6 billion and growing, and the city can boast hundreds of locally based production, post-production, equipment, and other companies that support our very robust film industry. In fact, the old Bud facility in Hunting Park is about to become one of the largest film and TV sound stages in the United States, which will be a game changer for the Philadelphia film industry, creating hundreds of additional new jobs. Moreover, GPFO launched Greater Philadelphia Filmmakers in 2000, our signature program to support and educate professionals, students, and those who seek the skills and opportunity to work in family-sustaining jobs in film and in TV. What would we have all done during this pandemic were it not for all of the TV and other films and shows that we were able to see during the pandemic? We are thrilled to be partnering with the Fund for the Philadelphia Schools. Starting in September, GPFO will launch a pilot program at Strawberry Mansion High School, and we'll be teaching high school and middle school students the skills needed for outstanding careers in film. And we plan to expand the program within other Philadelphia schools the following year. We're very excited about this. I want to welcome and honor 3 speakers that are on panel 9, each of whom is a part of our film family: Jillian Bullock, Nakia Dillard, and Shamika Sawyer. Philly's a movie town, but it's also a key part of Philadelphia's arts and culture and creative culture community. Please visit film.org, our unique website. No other film commission in the U.S. provides educational programming for our diverse community, and we could not be prouder. Let me tell you what else is unique about Philadelphia's film office. GPFO is the only film commission in the world with 0 government funding. But it wasn't always that way. And 2 budget addresses ago, Mayor Kenny eliminated the annual grant that has supported GPFO since 1992 without exception. All 5 of us, my now tiny staff of 5 of us, took 50% pay cuts just to keep the office open, and our reduced staff has more work than we can possibly handle. Morale is low. But Allegheny County grants $200,000 a year to the Pittsburgh Film Office. I don't get it. Without City Council's support of $200,000 to the Greater Philadelphia Film Office, we will not survive. Filmmakers avoid any city without a professional film commission, so Philadelphia could lose hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Visit Philly, the Convention and Visitors Bureaus, hotels, restaurants, and Philadelphia's civic pride will diminish when we can no longer brag about movies and stars in our midst. When COVID killed Philly's businesses, we safely made movies and TV series using the most advanced COVID protocols. Excuse me, one second. So that we could continue filming and employing thousands. Thankfully, Managing Director's Office was outstanding in support of our filmmaker needs. Council members, we are counting on your decision to restore our grant and provide us with $200,000 in funding so that Philadelphia can continue to be a thriving movie town. Thank you to all of you listening from City Council. I greatly appreciate it, and I thank you. Oh, please let me know if you have any questions as well.
Thank you very much. And let me just say that I don't have questions because this panel has given us numbers. So we know you need $200,000 and that you have missed $200,000 for the last, I believe, 2 years. Last year and maybe this year.
Actually, Councilman O, we were getting that much years ago, and in the last several years, we kept our every single year, our budget was reduced. The last time we had any funding from the city was 2 years ago, and it was down to $130,000. We literally are just not able to go on like this anymore.
Right. I'm sorry to hear that 50% cut, and I appreciate everyone working through this. So it's obviously not about the money, but it is about the money. So definitely we need to get back to funding Greater Philadelphia Film Office, and thank you for that. Thank you.
And I had a call from Netflix literally while I was waiting to be on this call with another film. We have a very, very busy season coming up, and we just need the help to be able to support it and create all of these great jobs.
Yes, thank you very much. And I thank everyone on the panel. I mean, you've been very clear. I understand the money amounts, and that is extremely helpful. So thank you. I'll ask the clerk to call the next panel, please.
The next panel
Let me do this. I don't have any questions, but let me take a step back. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for this panel? Okay, I think you're all very clear. Thank you very much. And please call the next panel.
The next panel is Raheem Manning, Sierra Lambert, and Aaliyah Duncan.
All right, I will ask you. Okay, I'm not sure what the static. Okay, I think we're having some connection problem here. Would everybody who is not testifying please mute your microphones? We might be picking up some sounds that are not meant for us to hear. At this time, I'll ask if Raheem Manning is connected and available. We're getting some kind of weird communication. You know what? We're having a technical issue with your audio. So I'll ask you to disconnect and reconnect. Somehow your audio is coming out, in a very strange manner. So while you're doing that, let me ask if Sierra Lambert is connected and available.
Hi, I'm connected and I'm available. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you. Would you please state your name and identify your position and provide us your testimony?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sierra Lambert. I'm the co-chair of the Arts and Culture Task Force, and I'm here today to speak about the discoveries made by my team in reference to the state of the arts community in the city of Philadelphia. Through the work done by the Arts and Culture Task Force and the endless volunteering and Zoom participation from the arts community, we'd like to see a sense of equity and permanence within arts funding. This sector too often has to rely on private funding, whose criteria doesn't usually support the diversity of our expansive arts community. But with our findings and the support of both Councilmember Thomas and Councilmember Gilmore Richardson's office, we were able to attempt to rectify some of the relief with the Illuminate the Arts grants, but the community clearly needs a lot more. We'd also like to see more city support in diversifying arts options and funding for our city's youth. They have expressed that they'd like to see more diversity and city support of the arts that they're actually interested in, and have more physical spaces for them to allow them to showcase their talents. Lastly, we feel that we do our city a disservice by not recognizing the expansion of the definition of an artist. And that usually leaves out our nightlife artists and hospitality workers who continuously bring revenue to the city. And we feel that we need a nightlife governance office to both strengthen the sector and provide a competitive experience with our neighboring big cities. So far, there's been some movement on this when it comes to bar hours. That's not enough. But compared to many other major cities that really rely heavily on tourism, we're lacking behind, which could be devastating to the economy once we try to reopen. I think that when we think about arts and culture, we're clearly at the heart of a lot of what makes tourism dollars money. So I'd like to see the same investment in us that I feel like we put into the community. I'm going to be quiet, and I know that I'm supposed to wait until the panel questions.
All right, thank you very much. Let me see if we can get Raheem Manning on now. Raheem, are you connected and available?
I am connected and available. Is this better?
Oh, and you sound much better.
All right.
Please state your name and provide us with your testimony.
Okay, I am Raheem Manning. I serve as co-chair along with Sierra Lambert of the Art and Culture Task Force, which was an initiative out of City Council. One, I want to thank Councilman David O for having us and listening to us as a community, but also want to thank Councilmember Thomas and Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for empowering us to review the state of arts and culture in the city of Philadelphia. My co-partner, Sierra, broke down a little bit about what we discovered in our final findings report, which I did just drop the link to into the chat. I also dropped a link to our proposal for the Office of Nighttime Economy, which I want to shift everyone's focus to. First and foremost, our research that we did for assessing where art and culture is in the city was very expansive and exhaustive. We met with many members of City Council, some who are on this call, some who are not. We met with our state officials, and we also met with our members of Congress to really assess how Philadelphia can show up better for arts, culture, and the creative economy. First and foremost, I want to say even before the pandemic, the city of Philadelphia has grossly neglected and underfunded this community. Specifically, if we get more detailed, especially when it comes to those expressions in this community for those of color and in disadvantaged areas in this city. Our research uncovered that there are many ways where we can do better, and I want to shift our focus to how we can become a more competitive and a more innovative city. Philadelphia is at a fork in the road right now, and we have the opportunity to continue along the same path in which we grossly underfund, underrepresent, and underappreciate what art and culture does for this city. We can continue down that path, and as the mayor's proposed budget now shows, that's the route that we are going. However, it is up to City Council and our elected officials and us as a community to advocate for us to take another road. The other path is one that becomes an innovative city that is creative and that competes with our partners, city partners to the north and to the south. As a city of first, as we have historically been, we have left that mantra behind in the last couple decades. We have not innovated. We have not brought more people to the city. We have not done anything different than we have usually done. Our city government, including the mayor's office, continues to operate in a draconian manner. How are we going to survive the pandemic, let alone innovate and become a globally competitive city, if we do not innovate and invest in art and culture? More specifically, I am calling for the creation of a nighttime economy office. A nighttime economy office is a way for Philadelphia to take a proactive approach to what this city offers after business hours close. As we know, the pandemic is going to shift how this city continues to function. It's going to shift the dynamics of our epicenter downtown when companies are no longer renewing leases and realizing that their employees can work home. That drive to come into Center City for business from 9 to 5 and then stay afterward is going to really impact a lot of our downtown establishments. The way that we can combat this is by creating the Nighttime Economy Office, which will put together a plan to create a 24-hour city. And cities of the future are all gearing up to become 24-hour cities if they want to survive and thrive post-pandemic. We are behind the 8 ball when it comes to managing our nighttime economy. We have other cities around this world who have, around the world and the country, who have realized the importance of such an office, including Pittsburgh to the west, who also has a nighttime economy office, which does not have as much economic impact in the state of Pennsylvania, nor on the Northeastern Corridor region. And for us to be a city of our size and magnitude, we have neglected nighttime, and we look at it as a nuisance and not as a proactive approach to bring in talent, to attract residences, and to compete for tax base here in the Northeast Corridor. Specifically, I want to talk about some numbers. Councilman O repeatedly talked about how the federal government is pouring $1.4 billion into the city of Philadelphia that will not only plug our budget shortfall, but also create a surplus of over $700 million. We are asking, through our research, through what we see as the way forward, for just a little over $500,000 to create the Office of Nighttime Economy off. As you can see in the proposal that I put in the chat for you to review, what that breakdown will do. But primarily, it will bring together all the stakeholders of the city to create an equitable, safe, fun, and attractive nighttime economy here in Philly. And we're not just talking about bar hours. We're talking about pouring support into our restaurants, into what it means to be a city after the 5 o'clock hour. And so if we want to continue to innovate, if we want to come out of the pandemic stronger and not just continue down the same path, it is up to City Council to put the pressure on the mayor's office, to put the pressure on what the budget will be, to fund this office, and to really look at what the future of Philadelphia is going to be. Are we going to continue down the path of draconian ideas and just surviving and being reactive? Or are we going to begin to innovate and become a city of first, as it is the founding of this city? Again, Councilman O and all the other council members on this call, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for listening to us during these difficult times. But we will not recover from the pandemic if we do not invest in arts, culture, and creative economy, and more specifically, put together a plan to become a 24-hour city, which includes an Office of Nighttime Economy. I thank you for your time, and I will stay around for questions.
Thank you very much. I'll ask again, is Aaliyah Duncan from Philly Culture United connected and available?
Yes, can you hear me and
yes,
see me?
And hear you now. Thank you very much. All right. Please state your name, your title, and provide us with your testimony.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Aaliyah Duncan, leader and organizer of Philly Culture United, board member of the Recording Academy Philadelphia Grammy Chapter, publicist in the music and entertainment industry, and Philadelphia resident. Today, I speak as one of many representatives of the arts and culture community. First, I would like to thank Councilmember David O for leading this hearing. I'm here to testify in support of today's proposed resolution of 200339. In reference to the community I work with and represent, in recent years, the term future cities has gained momentum in three main areas: sustainability, technology, and innovation. All of these three areas are essential. However, the connection to all three is the music and cultural infrastructure, where according to the report conducted by Sound Diplomacy, our future places must look at music and culture ecologically. Much like the way a building is an ecosystem, so is a community of creators, makers, consumers, and disseminators. For instance, our understanding of how to maintain a building is not translated to protecting, preserving, and promoting music and culture in communities. In other words, all future cities are creative cities, and all future cities are music and cultural cities. This notion is relative to the vibrancy and economic engine of Philadelphia. Arts, culture, and the creative economy is vital to the city of Philadelphia and our shared humanity. Currently, our industry is in an economic crisis due to the pandemic, with more than $300 million revenue losses from established institutions to small businesses and creative organizations. Without immediate support for our industry, we will not fully recover from the pandemic, and full-time jobs and thousands more roles occupied by creators, independent contractors, and gig workers across our city will be permanently impacted. With that said, we have to ask ourselves, as constituents, elected officials, business leaders, and advocates, what kind of city do we want Philadelphia to be moving forward? Are we ready to reimagine our city as a place where equitable longevity is available to everyone, which includes BIPOC communities, where creatives can build and form thriving enterprises, where innovative startups can scale and become a nationally known entity, and where our music and cultural sector is respected by our city and not viewed as an afterthought? In closing, Philadelphia is an epicenter of colleges and universities which have formed respected music, cultural, and innovative programs. However, students and new graduates are looking elsewhere post-graduation to begin their careers in other cities, who have more appealing economies of scale and an infrastructure that is conducive to creators to have longevity in business. Therefore, as plannings continue for the general recovery and full reopening of our city, this is the opportunity now to not only consider, but to implement an effective plan that will include music, arts, culture, and the creative industries. Our industry will play a major role in not only reviving the city during the reopening period, however, to continue generating billions of dollars into the economy, which occurred before the pandemic. And most importantly, to develop opportunities for the next generation of artists, creators, and innovators to thrive, work, and live in Philadelphia. Thank you.
You're on mute, Chair.
Thank you very much, Clerk. I said thank you for your testimony, and I'll ask if any members of the committee have questions for these panel members. There being none, I don't have any questions because, again, you were very clear and you have provided what you are in need of, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Clerk, please call the next panel.
The next panel is Shelley Power, Greg Maughan, and David Rose.
All right. I'm just going to note that the time now is almost 12 noon. I am going to try to move forward. I'll ask everyone to, I'm not trying to rush you, but really try to get to the point. You'll have the time that you were allotted at the beginning. And so far, we're aided by the fact that there are not a lot of questions. At this point, I'll ask if Shelley Power is connected and available.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Please
wonderful to see you.
Good to see you. Please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Shelley Power, and I have the honor of the role of Executive Director with Pennsylvania Ballet. Chair Councilman O and City Council Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative, Innovative Economy, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. In March of 2020, live in-person performances activities ceased for the Pennsylvania Ballet and our fellow performing arts companies all over Philadelphia, despite the support provided by the government through emergency funding opportunities such as COVID-19 Arts Aid Philadelphia Fund, PPP and PPP2. Organizations like the Pennsylvania Ballet had to make a dramatic personnel cuts across the organization, which affected our dancers, our musicians, community engagement, school and teaching artists, and our administrators. The personal financial reality for our employees is staggering. Dancers lost $1 million in salaries and wages. Our musicians lost $800,000. Teaching artists $250,000, and our administrators $1 million. The Pennsylvania Ballet utilized our COVID-enforced hiatus to retool the organization. We focused our energies on creating structures that would allow us not only to survive, but to sustain our operations going forward. Strategic planning, including accelerated work in diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, expanding on the work that we began almost 2 years ago, and restructuring of our administration and repositioning our brand. The Pennsylvania Ballet reduced its operating budget from a pre-COVID $15 million to $8.5 million for the 21 fiscal year. Contributed revenue declined by $2 million. Our earned revenue declined from $4.9 million to less than $150,000. The most dramatic example of this decline is our annual presentation of the Nutcracker, which usually brings 40,000 people to the Academy of Music with box office sales of approximately $2.7 million. As comparison, our digital version of the Nutcracker, which you made available this past December, was purchased by 3,600 households with revenue totaling $76,000. We usually directly employ 120 people annually, which allows us to present nearly 70 performances of 6 productions from October through May, including the Nutcracker. 70 performances that bring people into City Center who, in addition to supporting the Pennsylvania Ballet, are customers for local restaurants, bars, and retail. Add to this the more than 200 community engagement offerings that reach more than 17,000 people annually. Through performances and community engagement work, the arts help stabilize community support, education, and through this activity assist in reducing crime. The economic impact has been stated today, $4.1 billion as an economic engine for Philadelphia. As we plan to get back to in person, there is still much uncertainty. We are budgeting our 22 season box office at $3.7 million, which is 75% of our pre-COVID levels. Contributed revenue is forecasted to be $1.2 million lower than pre-COVID. Even with these forecasts, it's difficult to commit to a budget because we don't know because we don't have a capacity to hire at pre-COVID levels. The Kimmel Center has also indicated that there will be COVID-related cleaning costs that will be passed on to all the hires. But at this stage, they're unable to give us a budget number as what we should expect. For an organization like ours to continue, we are in desperate need of short-term emergency funding from the City of Philadelphia to stabilize. An operating grant of $2 million of emergency stability funds for this year and next, $4 million total, would allow Pennsylvania Ballet to rebuild our organization and commit to hiring decisions. It would offset the more than $2.5 million decline in earned and contributed revenue for fiscal year 22 and provide the company with the resources to plan for a return to normal activity. Looking beyond the next 2 years, the city could further invest in its cultural sector by committing to the creation of a hotel and occupancy tax that could be managed by the city's cultural fund and distributed as grants to the city's performing visual arts sector. This would provide much needed and consistent general operating support for the organizations throughout the city that help make Philadelphia the top 10 city of the world to visit. A portion of the hot tax could also be set aside for capacity building capital projects for the performing arts and visual community. To close, from a business perspective, not to invest in the creative economy is a huge missed opportunity. The arts enrich our lives. Creativity stimulates innovation. Both make good citizens who provide pathways for future generations. We cannot forget what we choose to do today affects us down the road. Hear our voices today and let us be part of the solution and not the problem. Invest in a holistic way that is inclusive and sends a strong message that $4.1 billion from the creative economy is important to the city and will provide stability for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let me ask, is Greg Maughan connected and available? Greg from Philly Improv Theater? Okay. If Greg does get connected and available, please let me know. I'll move on. Is David Rose connected and available?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Please state your name and your position and provide us with your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is David Rose. All right. I'm a father, a farmer, and the principal curator of one of the world's few full-service design consulting firms centering trauma-informed design, alongside a dynamic understanding of the impacts of colonial as well as industrial traditions of the past 500 plus years on art, music, cultural landscape preservation, and storytelling. The name of my company is Sally Blagg. I want to thank Councilman David O. and the committee for allowing me to speak on behalf of our family and our community here today. In 2011, when I first moved to Philadelphia from many years of community organizing around the preservation of oral histories on the east side of the city of Buffalo, New York, Philadelphia's Old City neighborhood, where I lived at the time, was a thriving arts district that had found a way to reinvigorate a microeconomy that broke with the traditional eds and meds ideology in the very city where the phrase eds and meds was coined. Over the course of 5 years, I engaged in a sort of critical ethnomusicological study that analyzed the relationships between arts, culture, and economics, and the psycho-emotional well-being of under-resourced artist families. Through listening to the music, taking serious the poetry and comedy, Sally Blagg had been able to map out solutions to many of the challenges that arise from a lack of investment when it is met with environmental triggers that feed on the intergenerational fears and insecurities that are born of the historic relationship between farmers as artists and settler colonialism. In 2016, we moved our Sally Blagg work to the storied historic Germantown section of the city of Philadelphia, with intent upon opening an international headquarters in a closed-down adult film store located at 5520 Germantown Avenue. It was our reasoning that we would design a safe space for community wellness practices in the same community where German Quakers wrote the first written protest against the enslavement of African peoples in 1688. In the time between November of 2016 and November of 2019, we would invest over $1 million into hyper-local social impact work through hiring artists as the consultants in the design and economic development process that is asset-based at heart. Then my mother, an intellectual partner in the development of the Sally Blagg approach to trauma-informed design, passed away, and suddenly, by March of 2020, news of COVID swept the entire planet. COVID shutdowns forced us to reimagine the in-person relationships that we had with the veteran families, eldership, merchants, artists, builders, farmers, and other members of the community. Since shutdowns began, the Sally Blagg community has invested all of its resources in maintaining psycho-emotional health through the curation of strategic partnerships and public programming. We worked with Amish families as well as local urban farmers to strengthen the relationship between rural farmers and Germantown residents. This work has matured into Sally Blagg's sponsorship of a Germantown farmers market in Market Square set to begin tomorrow at noon. We continue to work with culture-keeping institutions from the Athenaeum of Philadelphia to the Black Writers Museum to ensure that local artists have access to board leadership, curatorial, as well as exhibition opportunities. We have had to provide housing for artists, connect artists with information about grants as well as fellowship opportunities, and create the safe space inside of historic house museums across the city for healing from post-COVID PTSD. We are working now with a cohort of mental health workers to curate community wellness centers across the city for artists as well as entrepreneurs that are providing supportive services for the artists. One of our most important social impact initiatives during COVID was connecting our neighbors at the Fletcher Street Urban Writing Club with the appropriate media support to be in the position to benefit from the recent film that sought to capitalize from telling the story of the urban writing culture in Philadelphia. It is this style of capturing intrinsic value without reinvestment that is reminiscent of the very foundational concerns that were present at the time of this nation's founding. This notion of the taxation of American farmers without those farmers having any sort of representation inside of the British parliamentarian system. Artists deserve both investment as well as representation on boards of culture-keeping institutions across the city that receive public funding. Sally Blagg has been working with cities large and small across the country, from Asheville, North Carolina to Sunbury, Pennsylvania, to reimagine equitable reinvestment models that honors the living cultures of the people in place and their culture, their creative ideas about the economy, their unique value. Today, we join our community in requesting for consideration a reinvestment in the amount of $10 million. With this, the city makes good on promises made since the Consolidation Act of 1854, an act for complete transparency that was signed into law by then pro-slavery, pro-Fugitive Slave Act Governor William Bigler to gain greater control of the abolitionist dealings of communities like historic Germantown. Reinvestment is the first step in the direction towards truth and reconciliation. Again, I thank you for your time and look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Let me ask if Greg Mohan is connected and available from Philly Improv Theater.
He is in the meeting, Chair. I just spoke with him. He's having some technical issues, so I'm going to work with Council Tech staff and try and get him on.
Yeah. Okay, so please work with him, and when he is available, let me know. In the meantime, we will move on. Let me thank this panel, and I thank you also for the numbers. We are going to take these numbers, go through them, because this will be meaningless if we don't come up with numbers to present in our deliberations about what to do with the budget. So I appreciate that. And then also how these, asking for the funds, and then how are these funds going to be distributed? What type of acts should be done, legislation, incentives, and other things. So I appreciate the details that you're providing. And of course, there are circumstances where, it's very difficult to just kind of come up with numbers. And I understand that as well. And I appreciate all the input that has been provided. Clerk, could you call the next panel?
The final panel is going to be Nakia Dillard, Shamika Sawyer, and Eli and Lou Bevins.
Thank you. So with that, let me ask if Nakia Dillard is connected and available.
Hi, I am connected and available.
All right. Please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I want to thank you, David O., and the committee. My name is Nakia Dillard. I'm an actor here in the city of Philadelphia. I also been blessed to been able to work here in the city. I've been acting for over close to 25 years in the city. I worked on the show The Wire, House of Cards, Split, Concrete Cowboys. I'm actually Idris Elba's dialect coach. So I work with a lot of artists. And I also have an acting school where I help ages 7 through adult. My oldest student is 67, and one of my youngest students, she works on the show Servant with M. Night Shyamalan. So we've been able to provide opportunities for actors, artists, for years, since 2009 when I started I Can Acts. Part of my testimony is the fact that taking away the budget, it affects so many people. And also, for me, it saved my life. So a lot of the stuff that's going on right now with the crime, taking away the arts in the schools, and for me, it kept me out the streets. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was in a rehearsal. So I didn't deal with drugs. I didn't drink. I didn't do a lot of things because of the arts. And then it also helped me, learn about people through stepping into characters that I may never touch. Like I tell my students all the time, if I get shot on screen, I get up afterwards, So a lot of these kids are watching and they're being desensitized through a lot of stuff that they see, but they're living trying to imitate a lot of things. But if we had more programs to kind of help these kids, to nurture them and show them what they need to do, even adults, because it's a lot of adults that are pouring negative their mentality into these kids, into people, even saying that, oh, I'm too old to do this, I'm too young. And then by Philly not being an industry town, more of a blue collar town, whenever you look at TV, they feel like they can't get there, or if it's a stage, they feel like, oh, I can't do that. But then you go to New York, you go to Atlanta, you go to wherever, and you see it happening all over the place. And I, as an actor in Philadelphia, I shouldn't have to go to Atlanta. Like right now, I work on a show called Black Lightning, which we shoot in Atlanta. But I have to go to Atlanta to work. I would love to wake up and just work right here in the city of Philadelphia. So that's a little bit of me and my beef, I guess. Just to for them to take away the budget and think that we don't need it. Everything is art. You walk outside, somebody created the image of a car, the street, the paint, everything is art. So why are we going to take those jobs away? So that's pretty much me.
Thank you very much. Very well said, Nikki. I appreciate you.
Thank you, good brother. Thank you.
All right. Is Shamika Sawyer connected and available? Okay. Let me see if we have connected to Greg Mahan. Is Greg connected and available?
He's going to submit written testimony, Councilman.
Oh, okay. All right. Technology problems. Okay. Once again, Shamika Sawyer, are you connected and available? Okay. We shall move on to Eli and Lou Bevins. Are you connected and available?
Yes, we are here.
Oh, fantastic. Please state your names, your positions, and provide us with your testimony.
Well, thank you so much for having us and giving us this opportunity to speak. My name is Eli Bevins. I'm a co-founder of a small entertainment company here in the city called Eli Lou Entertainment and the Philadelphia Film Factory. I'll speak first, and then I know Lou will go after. But through the pandemic, we struggled greatly as a small business, but we found support with our notable partners in Los Angeles. In terms of our background, I actually received my bachelor's degree in computer science with a minor in aviation science and a master's degree in information architecture for web and mobile applications. But I've always had a strong passion and respect for the arts. So first and foremost, before I speak, I wanted to also say thank you to the 90 individuals of names we collected in emails to speak today, but due to time, everyone's not going to get a chance to speak. So I'm also here to represent those who share the same sentiments about the arts and culture budget. So we understand that this is a pandemic, and this pandemic is costing thousands of jobs and dollars. We understand that the city is receiving financial relief, and those funds should be allocated and dispersed accordingly. But when it comes to the budget cuts towards art and culture, these cuts are unacceptable and insulting for many reasons. $4.1 million was already low if you consider all the organizations that need the support. And then another cut on budget cut on top of that is really just a slap in the face. So I say this, how much do you want the arts community to suffer in Philadelphia? You cannot serve the people without hearing the needs and wants of the people. We vote for our various council members, mayors, and our city officials, and we expect to be listened to and heard in return when we disagree with decisions that impact us all. With that being said, we have concerns, we have questions, and we demand answers as to those who voted to decrease the cultural budget again. We are tired of being quiet, stepped over, and ignored in a city that is known for its arts and culture, but doesn't seem to value the economical, educational, artistic, and therapeutic contributions the arts bring to our city. And make no mistake, there's a clear correlation between the high crime rate and gun violence that we are seeing in the city during this pandemic. In fact, the closing of many arts and culture organizations, events that provide jobs and services to our city, these closings last year should be an indication of how it affects our city when they are not present, which is ironic that the city can say, can cut the arts and culture budget and then turn around and say we want to create preventable methods for violence. Like any altered ecosystem, we will feel the change as we are feeling it now. There's no surprise there. When you are making these budget cuts, what you are essentially doing is cutting jobs and increasing poverty and crime. Research shows how art is therapeutic and how it can change and save lives, but that's not enough for our city. The arts also bring in millions and billions of dollars, but that part is often dismissed as we creators have to move and leave outside of the city for opportunities as we enhance their city and their economy instead of our own. On large film sets, there are approximately 200 positions or more, which means 200 plus jobs, which helps bring in income, but not only for filmmakers, but the local businesses as well, such as catering companies, greenery, contractors who build sets, musicians who make soundtracks, entertainment law firms, hotels, restaurants, transportation, and much more. But again, our city just doesn't seem to understand the value or the bigger picture. This is how our community will be built back up in terms of combining all these different companies and organizations that support a cause. As creators, we don't do what we do for money, but we can't do what we do without it. And 4.1 million or less will not do. To be transparent before I close, our public schools are also not well funded in terms of the proper tools when it comes to science and technology, but yet we expect our youth to all want to be in STEM fields, go to college, get jobs at tech companies. And I recall being in the public school system and watching videos of science projects rather than participating in them. So it skews our youth and our young adults if they don't spark an interest in science while in school. And not because the arts are easy, but because one can discover their God-given talent and turn that into a career that works for them rather than fall into the streets. From being involved in both STEM and the arts community, I do see a huge difference in the investment in one sector over the other. Lastly, from firsthand experience, it was the arts that kept me financially stable during my years of being a poor college and graduate student, as I left Philadelphia with only $20 in my pocket to study computer science. I used my skills in film, art, and graphics to make extra income by offering services to my universities. No different than the filmmaker, artist, musician, poet, fashion designer, and dancer who makes a living with their passion and their talents to support and provide for their families. These are the people you're cutting out and leaving them to the streets to find that extra income. Crime is created by poverty. Poverty is man-made. So let's not create more poverty. I hope that my words today are not falling on dead ears and that we as a city can end gun violence and build a stronger economy. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yes, I have to follow that. And some of this will be redundant. We're twins, so our information is pretty similar. But I'm Lou Bevins, also co-founder of Eli Lou Entertainment, co-creator of the Philadelphia Film Factory. My sister and I also currently have a virtual talent show called I Got the Mic, which we executive produce with the notable Tina Knowles Lawson and veteran actor Richard Lawson in Los Angeles. I too hold a bachelor's in computer science and a master's in information architecture, and am well aware of the disparities in support for the arts versus tech because I have an outlook into or a viewpoint into both. The arts, culture, and creative economy deserves much more than an insulting zero budget and much more than 4.1 million. For a community that contributes billions to Philadelphia's economy in more ways than one, the budget should be set to the likes of 40 million plus to secure a future for the arts in the city. Just listening to the testimonies today, you hear we need 2 million here, 200K here, that when you listen to 1.4 million, not really sure how many people that were organizations that can even reach or touch, especially to secure a future coming out of the pandemic. We need a task force committed to distributing those funds across all mediums, both large and small. Then track the impact on the community and economy so that we don't end up here again explaining the importance again and again. Philly's independent film community needs a film hub and studio that can maintain its current talent and foster new talent while providing film and media service to local businesses to remain sustainable and contribute to Philadelphia's economy. Overall, the arts is made up of, it consists of visual artists, filmmakers, musicians, performers, dancers, concert halls, venue spaces, museums, theaters, live entertainment, teachers, educators, fashion and graphic designers, art organizations, programs, and so much more, many of which attract tourists to the city that give us our identity. The city received a large sum of economic relief, and we ask that the creative arts community is not shut out and given a respectable amount.
The city is driven by the arts, and we not only contribute to the economic growth of the city, but we create jobs, support local businesses, and create opportunities for our youth to remain active and off the streets. This is all supported by data analytics. So everything everyone has said in this window today is definitely supported by data. There's also a misconception that because of the pandemic and shutdowns that the arts and creative economy is not active or cannot thrive, making us an easy target, which is entirely false. Many of us, as Nakia stated, in the film community, and especially the independent film community, actually received an abundance of opportunities that surfaced during the pandemic, but this support and opportunities did not come from our own city, but others, which means we are contributing to other cities and their economy. And let's not forget, it was art, entertainment, and technology that brought the world together closer during the shutdowns. Everyone is aware that the art and culture sector took the hardest hit during the pandemic. Budget cuts of this magnitude is salt on an open wound that's an already struggling economy, an art economy and community. Many art organizations are uncertain to return to the city, and budget cuts will make sure of it. Mayor Kennedy himself stated that he will work towards the structural root cause of violence, which is the lack of education and opportunity. It should be clear by now that there is a correlation to the lack of opportunity and violence that has surfaced during the pandemic. Our youth not only need to express themselves through the arts, but it's their lifeline. Don't cut their lifeline. Many of us can attest that art does, in fact, save lives. And it would be entirely counterproductive and counteractive to lower the budgets for the arts while fighting violence in the city by pulling the plug on opportunity for youth and young adults. Where else but the streets are they to go? We need more preventive methods and programs for at-risk youth. Art programs and opportunities are an affordable alternative to police-centered crime prevention. As a filmmaker and content creator, I would much rather see our youth shooting with cameras than shooting with guns. I recall volunteering at a high school once, and a young man was killed, and my sister and I were volunteering, and we didn't quite know how to console the students, but we introduced them to filmmaking in a moment where they were disinterested in everything else. And their smiles and productivity returned as they told their stories through the camera. A better alternative than seeking revenge or fighting depression or trauma alone, because art is in fact therapy and a form of healing which contributes to public health. In closing, for those who doubt the filmmaking industry as an economic engine, consider independent filmmaking rivals that of major studios. The average budget for an independent film is approximately $750,000 per movie, yet many people here in the city will not invest in local or independent filmmaking. And just listening to Sharon of the Philadelphia Film Office earlier talk about the lack of support for the film office, then what type of hope does that give the independent film community here? I speak for the creative arts economy as a whole when I say that we are present. We are well aware of those in office who have our best interests and those who do not. It shouldn't come down to picket signs and strikes outside of City Hall to be heard. We invite those who agreed to the budget cuts to speak with our community further to express our concerns while demonstrating the impact the arts has always had on the city of Philadelphia. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to ask if any of our other speakers who were not able to connect have become connected. Any of the speakers from prior panels. And if there are any other speakers that have not yet spoken from the panels before we get to public comment.
Greg Mon from Philly Improv Theater.
Oh, okay, Greg. Fantastic. Please state your name, your position, and provide us with your testimony.
Great. Hello, my name is Greg Mon, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Philly Improv Theater. We are a improv and comedy theater company located in Center City, Philadelphia, and I'd like to thank Councilman O and the committee, and also the legislative aides, Tom and Tyler, and all the other people who testified this morning. I do know that I wasted a little bit of our time with my technical issue earlier, and so I will try to make my comments brief. I'll tell you briefly about what the Philly Improv Theaters face, and then quickly what I think on a larger scale can be done to help. We closed on March 13th. In normal times, in a typical year, we would welcome 60,000 patrons to our building across the course of a year. We offer about 1,000 performances a year on 3 different stages, primarily focused on Philadelphians. People who have learned at our own training center how to act, how to write comedy, how to perform stand-up. And each year we have several thousand students from as young as kindergarten to as old as 84, 85 years. We also offer $50,000 in scholarships to people from historically marginalized identities. It's something we'd like to be able to continue to do coming out of the pandemic. The issue is that we've lost 95% plus of our revenue, while many of our costs remain fixed. So I'm a small business owner, and last year I put my entire life savings into trying to keep my business afloat. There's a very good chance that I won't see that money back. And there's a very good chance that even with the support from the federal government, things like the Shuttered Venue Operators Program, we are only going to get back to the point of being flat broke. That legislation was designed to support businesses for 9 months. Of course, by the time we reopen, we will most likely have been closed for 18. So I'm also a member of Pivot, and I want to sign on to everything that Carrie Park from World Cafe Live said earlier today. We would estimate that our members would need $13.5 million just to make up the difference between the federal funding and grants that have been offered and what we'll need to be back to an even place. And that's true of us, it's true of my business, but it's true across the board. You know, all these arts and cultural organizations are hurting, and we realize that this city as a whole is hurting. I want to acknowledge that. You know, prior to becoming a theater owner, I have a master's degree in public administration from Fells. I taught in schools with Teach for America, so I know there are other priorities that are screaming out for aid at the moment and desperate for help in the city. But I think we have to remember that the arts and culture sector that's been built in Philadelphia goes back in many ways to the creation of the city, and especially to the first Rendell administration when he made arts and culture and the Avenue of the Arts a pillar of the rebuilding of the city. That's 30 years worth of work that can disappear in the blink of an eye if something isn't done to support these institutions. So that's a very brief summary of my story of kind of this, what we're up against. And the things I'd call for are, you know, a system to allow venues and shuttered museums, theaters that qualified for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant from the federal government to automatically qualify for some amount of grant money from the city that would make up part of that 9 months of revenue that they aren't going to receive from shuttered venues. I'd also sign on to the Arts Task Force call for an office of the nighttime economy. I call for a restoration of the funding for the Cultural Fund and an increase to that funding. The Blevins just spoke about it so eloquently. $40 million is a great place to start for what the arts and culture sector brings to the city. The city does not return funds that could amplify that. And I would also say that we need support that doesn't cost council anything. We need support from the city lobbying for additional funding like SVOG at the state level and changes to liquor licenses for small cultural institutions and other live entertainment venues that could help them. So those are things that don't cost you anything. The final thing I'd call for is a moratorium on the amusement tax through the end of 2022. There's probably some cap that's reasonable on venue occupancy size for that. It might be 1,500 seats, it might be 2,000 seats. Obviously, although they're hurting in other ways, the Eagles, the sports teams, could probably afford to pay the amusement tax. So that's my testimony. Thank you for listening. I shortened it and improvised, but I'm an improviser.
All right. Thank you very much. And thanks for struggling through this to join us and provide us with your testimony. I don't have questions. I will ask if anyone else, any other council member has questions for this panel. I don't see any additional questions. I appreciate that you have been clear, providing also dollar amounts that are so important to the purpose of this hearing. At this time, I'm going to allow tech staff or council support to bring in anyone who had signed up to make public comment. I will note the time is 12:35, so we typically limit the time of public comment. Not in every case, but I will say that I will limit it to basically 3 minutes. That's a request to please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Can we go to public comment?
Sure, Councilman. We're just going to need a short break just to get the public comment participants in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, council members and participants, we are now live.
All right, thank you very much. We have people who have signed up for public comment regarding this resolution. I will ask if we could please have their testimony and just ask that you try to keep it under 3 minutes. We're really pressed for time, and I thank you.
The first speaker is Joyce Drayton.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Councilman O, and all council persons present and any guests. Thank you for this opportunity to share my story. My name is Joyce Drayton. I am commenting on resolution number 200339 and honored to have served on the Art and Culture Task Force. But I come to you today as a grantee of the Philadelphia Culture Fund, we refer to as PCF. I am the founder and executive director of the George E. Gregory Interdenominational School of Music, who has provided music, performing arts training, and education for at-risk youth in our inner city since 1999. During our 21-year journey, GECASAM has served over 5,000 youth as students, performers, up-and-coming leaders, or supporters in our inner city community where music and arts programming was non-existent prior to our arrival. We also served over 400 adults, and our oldest student was 92 years old. To make sure any youth who desired to study music or dance, GECASAM provided free and extremely low tuition for families with marginalized finances and rose to the occasion during the COVID pandemic as we continue to provide music or performing arts training at no charge. How can this happen? Well, one of our main supporters since 2005 is the PCF, who has been a significant funder of GECASAM, as they invested in our vision and mission to fill the void of arts programming in Black and Brown communities. PCF support for general operating funds to small grassroots organizations like GECASAM allows us to give youth a positive alternative for cognitive, social, emotional, and cultural development. PCF is a critical supporter of 349 arts organizations that contribute to the economic engine and vital health of our city, and even more so to the 200 organizations who were awarded some funding from the drastically reduced budget for fiscal year 2021. We implore that Philly show up and show out for arts funding so that talented artists do not leave to go to other cities who financially appreciate and support their work. We implore our mayor and city council members to restore PCF to pre-pandemic budget levels of $3.14 million for the fiscal year 2022, demonstrating that funding for the arts sector serving youth in our communities matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony and your good work.
The next speaker is Queen Judith Robinson.
Good day.
Good afternoon. We hear you loud and clear.
Yes. Queen Judith Robinson here, testifying on Resolution 200-339. Greetings from North Philadelphia, a whole tourism.com with history all over the place. Church of the Advocate, historic Church of the Advocate, the John Coltrane House. I hope we can work out that fiasco. Yes. Doc Drass House, and a whole community, tourism community. We got tourism. I don't have numbers for you today, but we're missing out on opportunity by not focusing on all the possibilities. So in that regard, Committee on Global Opportunities and Creativity and Creative and Innovation, please be as excited about greeting all of our citizens. Listen as intently and be respectful of all ideas, because in this pandemic, when we reset, leave no one behind, please. As we do these virtual meetings, you know, you're not inclusive. You're missing out on a lot because some people are not quite here yet. So in that regard, I beg of you to be inclusive. Expect especially as we relate to resetting the economy, all this money coming in here. Let's think differently about what's going on. I heard some beautiful testimony about the fashion industry. That would be a powerful thing to happen here. Brought me back. My background is in fashion design. That was my first career. So there's a lot of possibilities there, especially in the urban community as we reset. We're talking about training. We're talking about knowledge, because with all these institutions around us, international institutions such as Temple University right here in North Central Philadelphia growing all around us, it should leave no one behind. We should not have a problem with educating our youth and training. We have an environmental education group, and I'm also on the school district of Philadelphia's Environmental Advisory Council. So it was good to hear about ions cleaning the air. But listen, how does that connect from Germany or from Exton to North Philadelphia? Leave no one behind. Train our youth, and they will be able to take advantage of all these opportunities. So I'm here today as a committee person, 32nd Ward, asking for inclusion. I hear about the arts and the $1 million, but let's not have us jump through 99 hoops the same way we would. They say black folks have been catching hell before the pandemic, and now the pandemic leaves glaring inequities and neglect. So I'm happy to hear about the Strawberry Mansion and being included in the film industry and all the possibilities and what's going on at Buzz. But we got to make sure we do the connection to the people most in need in my community. So I'm here today to amplify our voice here in North Central and say, yeah, tell them we are rising. We want to be included in everything. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and your work. Appreciate what you have said. The next witness, please.
Our last witness is going to be Maureen Fratantoni.
Good afternoon, Councilman O.
Good afternoon.
Councilman Sanchez, Councilwoman Sanchez, Councilman Thomas, and others. I'm Maureen Delcorio Fratantoni, lifelong resident of South Philadelphia, former home and school president of Nebinger, Temple graduate with a BA in theater, artist, actress, performer, musician, singer, advocate, community leader, activist, and a parent of 2 public school students. I'm speaking on behalf of Resolution 200339. I echo the sentiments of the other speakers here today. We must open the theaters, museums, responsibly, of course, but as soon as possible, just as the sports venues are opening. We can't stop opening things. After being locked down so long, our emotional state has been affected. We need to get back to the new normal, quote unquote, and start getting out there and enjoying things. We need to put people to work again. And we've said all this during this meeting, how important it is. Also, the artists, we need to do things that we love the most, and that's perform. So the arts need to be well funded. We know that. They are vital to our well-being and a vital part of our community. So my question is, in listening to all of this testimony, with the technologies that we heard about earlier, why is it that we are behind? We should be on top and in the forefront of this effort, since our arts and cultural heritage is so rich in Philadelphia and diverse. Arts and culture needs to stay here and all over the world. So how are we going to get this done? How are we going to move forward quickly? We cannot just drag our heels. We need to move quickly on this. And our schools need to be in new buildings without the hazards of the asbestos and lead paint or whatever. But how are we going to do this? This is the question that we must ask ourselves to move forward quickly so that everything doesn't fall apart and we can hold on to this rich heritage that we have. Thank you for your consideration and your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony and for listening to the testimony of others.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, let me thank everyone, all the witnesses, the council members, their staff, for listening to today's hearing, for testifying, for doing research, for doing work, and providing your important input. There is a budget proposal, and there's testimony about the budget, but the budget is not done. It will come down to the vote of council, working with the administration to come up with a final budget. However, it doesn't mean that things will or won't be done. First, as a result of this hearing, something has to happen next, and I will take the next step based on your testimony. Then there has to be a vote of the elected representatives, and perhaps negotiations or other things if it gets that far. What is important is to answer your question, Maureen, how does this happen? People have to make it happen. It depends on what people want. The school district is getting $1.1 billion. The city is getting $1.4 billion. How shall that money be used? Shall we restart our economic engines, our economy, and then see that people return to work, have jobs, tourists come back in, clean up this city and make it a vibrant city? Are we going to spread this money out over several years of a depressed economy and raise taxes because we're broke? I mean, how are we going to do this? And your testimony is critically important, but also your rallying of like-minded people who want to see the arts budget restored to where it was, which has to do with mostly the Philadelphia Cultural Fund. But a new idea is to take the money that is intended to revitalize our city and create a creative arts fund to address all the damage that was done by COVID and all the results of COVID, to deal with gun violence and depression and other issues, to train people, to provide education, and to do so because we have a great foundation in arts and culture that we might lose if we don't. So we have to act because we don't want to lose it, and we have to act because it is providing our city a tremendous opportunity to get into the plus side, the positive side, to grow and to be vibrant. So with that, this concludes the business before the Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative Innovative Economy. The hearing is recessed until the call of the chair. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day and a great weekend.